Hello everybody. Hello.
Hello. Hello. There's a lot of hellos.
Am I allowed to speak already?
You are allowed to speak already.
Yes, you're.
Yeah,
Okay,
hell of a
hello,
thing for us to go,
everyone.
shh, no.
All around the world, I suppose, this time around. All 19 of you, I suppose.
Hello, Doey Cisco. Since
This is sounding okay for me for now.
I mean, you're chugging beer.
I am chugging beer. This is delicious beer. I'm starting off with something dark and really strong. It's a nice. It's a Whitechapel porter. Sorry, porter. It is a dark ale.
We're not being sponsored by them. You don't have to go on.
Which is delicious, full-bodied, robust, just like a bear.
Sure. Right. So. Oh, Matt's already geeking out. That didn't take you long, Matt.
We did say that people would want to hear his accent.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
here it is.
there. It
Yeah,
is.
but there isn't anything else to this. This is how I speak.
I don't think it needs to be anything else. Although he does want you to roll your R's for some reason.
Yeah, I suppose that happens when I'm not speaking like the man without tongue who taught me how to speak English.
Wait, that is an awesome story and fact right off the boot.
Right off the boot.
Yeah.
Right off the boot, yeah.
Not off the bat.
Right, yeah, no.
You've had about half a beer.
It's very strong. It's got hints of chocolate spice.
Peter says you sound really Finnish. Sure.
He should know because he was here about a few weeks ago, so he should know.
Yeah, and there's a good reason for you sounding Finnish. Hello, Husky. How you doing? How's everybody doing?
Hello, everybody. And hello, everybody new, everybody old, and everybody. And stop looking at me like I'm really drunk. I'm not that drunk yet.
Everybody.
Note the yet.
Everybody old.
Well,
Not age-wise.
Our usual viewers.
Regulars.
Stop it.
This is.
It looks like a lot of our regulars are coming in, yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, they are regular.
Right.
I feel that Matt's going to be a peculiar nuisance tonight. And you did notice you missed that a drunk square on his bingo card.
Well, that's their own fault. I mean, if they'd put one on, they would have got. I'm not drunk yet.
You're getting there.
Oh, it's just the word drunk that has to be spoken.
I don't think so. I think you can have Cisco gets drunk on stream.
Right. Well, we have Gruffy with us, as everybody knows.
If they didn't, he's on the screen.
We've got crap loads of questions from everybody to put to Gruffy. If you don't know Gruffy, then he is a writer from So Furry, one of the more popular authors on there. He's also on Fur Affinity, and he's Finnish.
Is he your main competition? Is this going to get heated?
I wouldn't say main competition. He's another writer, and I don't think that we compete so much as support each other.
In the last JibberJabber, it was you and Amethyst, and she's a teeny tiny woman. I don't think she's very tall, so that's fine. But two guys, surely that's a competitive
That's just
thing?
the start of a good porn story.
Well, you would know. Right, so please, Novus. I mean, they are anonymous Novus, but yeah, there are various pun-related ones, so we can guess which ones are yours.
Right. Do you want to kick us off with a couple of questions then, before you start playing a game?
Well, there's not much of the game I'm going to be playing, but I am going to be playing a Star Trek-related one. Does that go down on the bingo card?
That goes down on the bingo
Star
card.
Trek. I know they have Star Trek on the bingo.
I did have a Star Trek question of my own that I was going to ask at some point.
I'm sure we'll get into Star Trek. Definitely get into Star Trek. But we can start off. That's not Well, I'm not going to start with this first question we got because it's not even a question for Gruffy. It's a joke. We'll start with this one. Do you, as in Gruffy, or Cisco, have any advice for aspiring writers? I believe we got a very similar one with Amethyst, and that was the first question we got right off the bat. As soon as I posted the thing, it's basically saying we're going to be doing a JibberJabber. That was in the inbox. So do you have any advice for other writers or aspiring writers? Gruffy, do you want to take it?
Yeah, that's it's a question that people keep asking me every now and then. So it's definitely something that people seem to think that I can answer. And basically, I suppose the main advice I could give is to read a book. That's pretty much it, because if you only read stories online or stuff like that, you're not going to be seeing the kind of stuff that you generally need to see so that you can write stuff of your own. So basically you should read real books, pretty much.
I would have to agree with that.
You should also... I would also suggest reading the news as well, because if you know what's going on in the world, then you can decide what's your viewpoint to the everything that's going on around you. Because basically, if you don't know anything and you don't have anything to say, then what are you going to write about?
Write what you know.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, if you're going to write just going to write furry porn or something like that, then basically you don't have to know anything about that. But if you want to write anything else, then you basically have to know a bit about what's going on around you to be able to do anything about it. So basically that's what I would tell to anyone.
Assimilate knowledge.
I would have to say that even to write furry, well, I suppose it depends. If you want to write a sex scene, then you can just sort of just read a bunch of other stories. But I think the better erotica has
They didn't
more
say
story in it. So you still
writer.
need to.
They didn't say aspiring porn writers. They did just say writers. So.
But if you wanted to be, I would still recommend that yes, there's a very good bit of advice there. Read as much as you can, and keep your eyes open. I often find story ideas and just things I see on the news, things I see in the street, and stuff like that. And the other thing that I think I would
hobo
suggest,
throwing up on a pigeon. Now that's a story that needs telling.
No, but there have been other things. There was a story I did recently, Love Locked, and I saw a bunch of padlocks on a bridge, and I couldn't figure out what the hell they were for. So I googled it, and I found out all about this thing. It is just where couples put locks on bridges for symbolizing their relationship, and I turned that into a story.
Symbolizing their relationship. How?
I didn't read that detail.
You didn't read that far into it. You looked to see why they were there.
It was basically a fad that ran sort of like from 2000. It's still going, but it's mainly in France, but it's spreading around the rest of the world. And it is just about basically once it's sort of like locked, it's supposed to like symbolize togetherness because it's locked together.
So a lockpick. You could break up so many couples. When they go back in the sea and they go, hang on, only we have the keys to this. And that fecker took our lock off the bridge.
The thing is, in France, it happened so much that it became a problem. They were actually damaging, because of the weight of the locks was actually pulling on the bridges so much, it actually was causing damage to several heritage monuments, so they ended up having to throw them all away. That's just an example of you're out and about, you see something, you take a bit of an interest, and from it you get an idea.
Assimilate
and
knowledge.
You need to have an idea, at least to start. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to follow all the way through the story, but you've got to have an idea.
Yeah, that's pretty much the basic thing what writers do, because writers are thieves because we steal ideas from everywhere, whether it's other people or the news or other pieces of fiction, whatever the media it is on. Basically, since everything has been done before, you just have to take the things and put them in new order that pleases yourself.
You hack, fraud, thieves.
Well, I would argue that's been going on for centuries. I mean, Shakespeare stole almost all of his stuff from Greek plays. And most of the story formulas are already sort of like done out there. But you can still have a fresh approach and a new way of looking at that story. So if you've got an idea that says, oh, you know what, this would be a good way to look at that, and you just go for it. I think the truth is, though, if you want to be a successful writer, the most important thing to do is to write.
I was going to say,
and write often.
To be a writer, you have to write.
And not just write, you have to finish things. So if you start a novel and never finish it, and then start another novel and never finish it, you're not really a writer. You've got to actually get to the end.
Until it's written, you are not a writer.
Have
you
a
are
complete
dabbler.
story.
So write, assimilate knowledge, write that knowledge, and keep going.
Yeah.
Don't give up.
Yeah, I see some people doing that too. They keep telling about like they've spent years planning a story or gathering information for it or creating character backstories or plot synopsis or world building, whatever you have. But that's just having fun with stuff. That's not actually writing a story yet.
Yeah. It's also procrastinating, which is something I'm terrible for. And I did that for 8 years, where I wrote nothing. I just said I was going to become a writer at some point, and I did eight between like me producing Heat and it getting popular. There's a good 8-year gap before I came back and started writing again, because I went off and said I was going to live a bit and all that, and really I was just scared that people would turn around and say my stuff was shit. And you can get stuck in that, and you know, nobody starts out as Shakespeare. No writer starts out perfect. You're going to start out and you're going to have a rough idea. You may have good story ideas, but you need to know you need to learn the technical sort of aspect behind it, the grammar, the punctuation, the formatting, everything that you need, as well as you need to understand characters. You need to understand plot, motivation, and all that, and you need to formulate all of that into an enjoyable story arc that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, basically.
A story, basically.
Yeah.
Keep going until you've got a story. Keep storying until you have a story. Right, well, I think that answers that question. Has been well and truly answered. Aspiring writers need to write. They need to be aware of the world around them, and they need to assimilate knowledge.
Yep.
But they need to not give up, basically.
Yep.
Write and keep writing.
Yep.
Which I think was very similar to the answer to a very similar question we got last time with Amethyst.
That's just us being consistent.
Consistency in writing. Who knew? Alright. Should I move? Do you want to do another anonymous question?
Yeah, keep going.
Just because I skipped the first one, so I'm going to go back to it. Hey, Gruffy. Been a big fan for ages now. I wanted to ask you, as a writer of such caliber and world-wise, I assume that means like wisdom.
Yeah.
Did you know that Meeks is a panda?
Well, I've heard rumors to that effect. Yes. And it was used as a question to identify me once. It was a kind of a secret identity question as well.
There we go.
Yeah.
He has heard such things. To answer your question, he has heard that rumor that Meeks is a panda.
We all know Meeks is a panda.
Yes, that was quite quick off the bat. But to be fair, this is our stream. What did you expect? Another question we've got. We've got quite a few. We've got quite a few questions about the Druff.
The Druff.
The Druff. And this one I believe is related to that, but I'll ask it as it's written because I may not be aware of such things. Gruffy, how did second Gruffy come about? Is second Gruffy the Druff, or is there something I'm not familiar with?
Yeah, that's second Gruffy started out as a joke. Basically, because I once wrote a journal where I was interviewing myself, basically, and that went got out of hand, basically, and from then on I decided that maybe Gruffy has this extremely, let's say, outgoing, identical twin brother who was then called, who then ended up being addressed as second Gruffy, and then it was the Australian writer Gabriel Clyde who started to refer to him as le deuxième Gruff in French. So after that I decided that his name should be Deux, which is the French for number 2. So basically that's how second Gruffy came to be. And as for the Druff, with the definite article, Druff that's another character. He's the third incarnation of Gruffy. Basically, and I suppose Matt did this question, Druff is meant to be Gruffy's father, his biological father. And just how he managed to procreate, we don't know, but that's why he's a fictional character.
Okay, so there is actually a second Gruffy that is separate to Druff. See, I didn't know that. I was not aware of that. And related to that, then, it's the next question is, how does second Gruffy relate to your persona? Is it another you, or is it a part of you? And you've sort of answered that one.
But I think that's pretty much been answered.
Yeah, he's kind of the parody version of Gruffy, I suppose. He's the kind who would dress up in a leather kilt and runs around wearing that.
And nothing but that.
Yeah, nothing but that.
You don't have a second Cisco. You do all this stuff just yourself.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a pantless stream, and I am appropriately pantless.
It's true. It's true. Does second Gruffy get used much, or was this something from the past?
Yeah, he's still around, since I'm offering stories where you can meet him, yes, but let's say that the Druff has greatly eclipsed him in popularity. It seems that people have forgotten that he exists.
Yeah, everybody loves Daddy
now that
Gruffy.
Druff has entered stage. So Daddy Power is evident in this regard.
That would be a whole different 90s song if Daddy Power was a thing instead of Girl Power.
You know what? That could come about. The hipsters might embrace it. Daddy Power.
Hipsters?
The Daddy Boys.
Why would it be a hipster
Actually,
thing?
could it be the Boy Daddies? I don't know. I'm 3/4 of the way through the bottle. I'm not that drunk yet. But I do ramble meaninglessly even while sober.
It's very true. I'm going to move on to another question. What got you both into writing?
I'll answer this one first. Sorry, Gruffy, I'm quicker. I have always written ever since I can remember. I always wrote, and I always had stories. I mean, even when sitting alone in a room, I will be thinking about a story. Sitting on a bus, if I am not actively engaged with somebody, I am generally thinking about a story I want to write. So I've always known that I would be a writer or a storyteller of some description. I suppose when I was younger, I didn't realize I'd end up writing so much porn, but I think it's at least enjoyable. Both writing it and hopefully reading it. I'll pass over to Gruffy now for...
What got you into writing, Gruffy?
I think the first thing I wrote, I must have been like 10 or 11 years old, I think. I do remember it very well. It was a crime mystery story. So I think that since the length was about maybe 4 or 5 pages, I suppose that the plot was highly dramatic and didn't take very long to resolve if the story was 5 pages long. But then I wrote a Star Wars fanfic, which was probably the first longer story I wrote, which was kind of episode 7, if you want to call it that. Gladly, Disney hasn't stolen too many plot elements from it, so I don't have to sue them.
I don't know. I think I'd rather have your fanfic than the Phantom Menace. So I think they should make that and erase the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, but he said it was an episode 7, it wasn't a prequel.
I don't want prequels.
Gruffy wouldn't have written a prequel.
No, I wrote a sequel, and then it kind of started escalating from that point on. So let's say that maybe since my age 11 or 12, I've never stopped writing.
Did you always write in English, or when you started, were you writing in Finnish?
Yeah, I've been writing in Finnish, and I still write in Finnish as well, but quite early on I started to write in English, and I wrote stuff in English for about 10 years before I posted anything ever, or let anyone ever see any of the stuff I did.
I can understand that.
So it was a very long process to get to that point when I felt comfortable enough.
I can understand
I did learn by reading, so I read so much stuff in English.
What did you read?
This is, I don't know if it's embarrassing or not, but I actually read a lot of Star Trek fan fiction.
I wouldn't say it.
I wouldn't say embarrassing. No.
Because there were those old archives of the stuff on the internet, so I would go to the internet on the dial-up internet where everything takes ages, and then I would download these text files of stories, and then I would save them up on my computer, read them, so that I could read them offline, and I would read these stories, and there were some really good ones, and obviously there were really bad ones too, but I got to read some that were so good that they could have been published books, I suppose, if just they'd ever given the chance. But basically that just meant that because of my extreme nerdiness that made me read all these Star Trek stories, basically I was reading so much stuff in English that my language skills just exponentially increased. So from then on, writing in English and reading it has become so natural to me that it's not an issue.
Because of Star Trek.
Because of Star Trek. Let's thank Star Trek.
Thank you, Star Trek.
Which Star Trek was it? These fan fictions, were these original series? Were these next gen? What?
I think it was mostly Next Gen and Voyager that I read, I think.
And not DS9? Nothing about Cisco?
I'm sorry. DS9 is
I'm
the dark
offended.
horse when it comes to popularity, I'm afraid, Cisco.
Not terribly much, but you have to remember at the time that we're talking about early noughties, it was extremely difficult to be a Star Trek fan in Finland because it wasn't on TV. It wasn't shown on TV, and there was obviously there were no online services where you could watch it, I mean, whether legally or illegally, so it basically just wasn't there. All you got was whatever you found on the internet. So it was basically, that was it.
Well, I was going to say, to be fair, in the early 2000s, I'm afraid I cannot refer to them as noughties. In the early 2000s, it was difficult to be a Star Trek fan for anybody because you had Enterprise on television. Voyager had come to a close, and we were given our own Phantom Menace-esque thing, which was a prequel, because everybody loves prequels. I don't want to segue into Discovery, but everybody loves prequels. Everyone definitely wants a prequel. Definitely wants a prequel that's exclusive to a online streaming service in the US. Everyone else gets it on Netflix. A streaming service in the US that nobody has. But anyway, that's fine. That's neither here nor there.
The interesting thing is, with Star Trek, and something that I don't think many shows did, but they did accept fan-written scripts and several fan-written scripts.
Definitely did.
So you're saying good. There was a lot of good writers in the fandom, and there's a lot of I'm geeky enough to read almost all of the DS9 books. I've read a lot of books from DS9, so I love DS9. More than I thought both Voyager and Next Gen weren't as good. I'm sorry, I likes me space battles. And I think Next Gen had some really, really great stories, but I think they had a lot where they didn't really explore characters and species properly, whereas DS9, that explored this.
Everyone knows you're a huge shill/mark for DS9.
I am.
But not everybody else shares your opinion. It is one of the least popular ones, even though there's nothing wrong with DS9. But, you know.
But they're all wrong. DS9 was the best. Screw you all.
I know we have.
I'm getting another beer.
I know we have more Star Trek questions later on because I have seen them. So I suppose I'll try and find them and get them all out in the one place. By the way, Novus Hippie is your Star Trek bingo thing ticked off? Oh, jeez, there's still questions coming in. This is never going to end. We've still got questions coming in. Oh, here's one. Star Trek related one. Gruffy, Kirk or Picard?
Well, Picard, obviously.
Obviously, there is little more that needs to be said. Both the original series Kirk and the new movie Kirk are no patch on Picard. But Picard isn't as good as Cisco.
The least to be said about the reboot.
Oh,
Reboot
Jesus.
Kirk, the better. Yeah.
Chris Pine.
I've got no problem with the actor.
Fine, you're a pain in the ass, yeah.
I've got no problem with the actor. I've got no problem with any of the actors. I thought they were actually quite good for the role. I just thought the story, especially in the second movie, was appalling. The third movie was sort of okay.
Here we go then. Who is everyone's favourite captain in Star Trek?
Well, I'm going to shock you all.
He didn't start out captain.
Still my favourite.
And I'm sure you're shocked to know, Gruffy, that Cisco's name is basically taken from DS9.
It was
Cisco.
taken from DS9. It wasn't that I chose it myself. It was given to me when I first got to university, and there was this thing called the internet that I was allowed access to, which had chat rooms on.
It never took off though, right?
It died. It died quite a death. Yeah. Some guy said, "What did you watch on TV last night?" And I said, "Star Trek." And he said, "What's the captain called?" I said, "It's not a captain. He's a commander. And his name's Cisco."
Actually, it's Commander.
Yeah, I was that guy.
I'll stop you right there. Okay, he's Commander. It's not with a stupid captain like Picard.
He was cooler. He punched Q.
He did punch Q.
He punched Q.
Some might say that's not necessarily a Star Trek captain way, but that's fine. That is absolutely fine. Gruffy, who's your favourite captain in Star Trek?
It's a quite difficult question. I suppose I could go. Maybe I should go with. Since I've been watching Voyager lately, so I'm gonna be careful here and say Janeway at this point.
I can respect that. Janeway is a scientist. I like that she had her own thing as well as being a captain. I respect Janeway, sort of.
What do you mean, sort of? Janeway was fantastic. Don't give me that crap.
She also made Admiral, which none of the others did.
Well, supposedly, but let's not
It was
really dwell
in- it
on
was
the
in
Next Generation
the
movies
worst,
because they
yes.
were terrible. And the one thing I hated about the Next Generation movies, where this is just a Star Trek stream now, the one thing I hate about the Next Generation movies is that the Next Generation superseded everything else. So, and the Next Generation ended, DS9 was still going, Voyager started, DS9 ended, Voyager ended, Enterprise started. But the Next Generation's movies dictated what happened to all the characters, even though they'd already done things in their show. So the Next Generation in Nemesis said basically Janeway was an admiral because she showed up in the movie for a few seconds. And it's like, hey, it's Admiral Janeway, even though she should be in prison because, you know, the Prime Directive just got violated on a daily basis under Captain Janeway. But that's fine. That's fine. They were in the Delta Quadrant. Let's not get onto that. Worf became like ambassador to Kronos or something by the end of DS9.
And then in the movies, they just stopped making excuses for
inexplicably-
bringing him back. It's just,
Inexplicably,
Worf's over there.
in the movies, he's just back on the Enterprise for no freaking reason at all. He's just there. Oh,
Yeah, that's true. They obviously because they wanted to make the movies with the original cast, so they had these really poor excuses on why they were all suddenly on board again, doing basically the same thing they did on the show.
Did you love in First Contact that they had the Defiant show up with Worf and a bunch of cadets from DS9 to help fight the Borg?
Under no circumstances, give me anybody who's got any charisma on this crew. Just Worf, the rest can die.
Cisco certainly didn't show up.
Worf
None of the
and
rest.
a whole crew of red shirts.
And then they're like, oh, well, you might as well just be on board the Enterprise now.
We are literally just... We've got Gruffy in, and all we're doing is talking about Star Trek.
Are you surprised? I mean, I don't think Amethyst gives crap about Star Trek. Star Trek never came up. We got no Star Trek related questions for Amethyst. I'm blaming people who give us Star Trek related questions.
And just to respond, Aaron is right. Aaron Blackboard did point out that Kirk did make Admiral, but he couldn't hold on to it.
He got demoted.
But I like the original Kirk more than I like Chris Pine, because the original Kirk was actually just a captain. He knew he followed military procedure, and he didn't break orders until the movies. He wasn't constantly just bucking authority. Chris Pine Kirk should have been in court-martialed and out of Starfleet by now, because he never followed orders. He breached the Prime Directive just for shits and giggles.
Did you see Beyond, Gruffy?
Yeah, I've seen that.
That was actually decent.
It is decent.
Yeah, because basically it doesn't... Well, because on the first one you have to make the origin story, and the second one is...
Steaming palace shit.
That's putting it politely.
They try to remake the Wrath of Khan and
Sort of.
make it sexy.
Sort of.
And on the third one for the first time they actually tried to make a movie with an original plot, well, more or less.
Yeah.
And
pretty much thanks to Simon Pegg.
Lots of it don't really make sense. It's still okay.
Well, I like that they brought a few... In the second movie, they kind of shoved Star Trek references in your face. Look, it's a tribble! And look, it's Khan, and he's screaming Khan, and it's all that going... But in the third movie, the references to the past were a lot more subtle. They were just like the ship that was the same class as the Enterprise, but they didn't really make a big thing about it.
They were integrated. They weren't references, they were integrated into it.
Yeah,
in the second one, they were just random references. And the reason, we're jumping to a different topic again, the reason I'm quite worried about Discovery is because Kurtzman, the writer or co-writer of the second film and the first one, he's like the producer now. And I say, oh, fuck.
And he's made Klingons blue.
Oh, Jesus. Well, I'm sure we'll get on to Discovery at some point.
Yeah, let's
another Star Trek question.
I was going to say, let's straight off Star Trek.
I'm trying. What is Gruff's favourite series and episode of Star Trek?
Well, he's already answered Janeway for Captain.
That's not the question. The question is series and
Okay.
episode.
Okay. But after this, we're off Star Trek for at least 5 or 6 questions.
Yeah, it's a fun question because I watched most of it, and it's really hard to pick favorites like that because basically all the shows have great episodes and but then there also have the filler episodes and the ones that are basically shit. Basically when they had no ideas, or like on TNG when they had no money, or they recycled the 70s scripts when they didn't have any writers. So I think all the shows have the great moments, like like Deep Space Nine. They have some really good stuff, like much of the stuff they did with the Dominion War. There are some really good episodes there, but possibly also bad episodes when they just try to make these filler episodes with no money.
I often find the filler episodes where they make with no money turn out to be some of the better episodes, because usually when it's an episode with no money, it's a character piece. So you've just got like a couple of people. Like in the first series, there was one called Duet. First series of DS9, there was one called Duet, and it really is just Kira and a Cardassian, and it's one of the best episodes they ever did. And the same on Next Gen. One of their best episodes was Measure of a Man, which again was more of a filler thing because they didn't really have there's no special effects. It is just literally a very simple story of, is Data a human or not? Does he have rights or not?
Well, he's not a human because they can answer that
No,
question
not human,
very
but
quickly.
Is he a sentient being or is he a machine? Is he an object to be owned or is he
Is he, quote, alive?
Yes. And that was really, really interesting, but it's incredibly cheap to make. You know, most of their set was just a table. You know, the sort of, you had your standard sets. There was very little extra, and it was just very simple.
Yeah, I'm gonna show my Star Trek credits here. In Measure of the Man, the courtroom is the Enterprise D Battle Bridge set, which they modified to be their courtroom.
More evidence that they had zero budget for that. So
which already was built in 1979 to be the bridge of the Refit Enterprise. So basically, the set is from the 70s originally.
But what is your favorite episode and what is your favorite series, Gruff?
I refuse to name favorite series. I can't think which could be my favorite series, but if I want to mention some favorite episodes, let's say for TNG, I like Disaster. It's the episode where the ship gets struck and they don't have any power, and then they all have to struggle to make it out alive, which is
And keep warm.
Hmm?
Yeah, I remember.
which is the kind of episode I like, actually. I like when they are pushed to the limits.
I already know yours, by the way, Cisco. I already know it's DS9 and I already know it's Duet.
There's a, I mean, if I'm naming multiple, there's
just naming
3
the
DS9
one.
episodes.
You're just naming the one. So we can kill the Star Trek dog before people hang themselves. And yes, Measure of a Man was probably the best one from TNG, I would say. But anyway, that's all fine. Let's get back to it. And this question isn't anonymous because he's made sure it's not anonymous. This question's from Matt. These questions. Question 1.
Question the first.
Do you want to read them? Because these aren't questions that are easily answerable.
Question the first. Can you send me some salmiakki? Salmiakki? I can't read that. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Salmiakki? Sounds...
Yeah, salmiakki. That's salted licorice.
Ugh.
Yeah.
No, but
Basically, it's licorice that is flavored with the chemical ammonium chloride.
I actually have a story. It's a slightly one side. I have a story about work sent me to Malmo a few years back, and I was coming back through the airport, and if work sends you away, you kind of need to bring something back for the office. So I grabbed what I thought was just a giant tub of boiled sweets. I thought it was brilliant. There's hundreds of them. People will enjoy them. Blah, blah, blah. Took them into the office. People put them in their mouths and then went and spat them out. They were covered in ammonia. That literally what you were just saying. That ammonia dust, and it doesn't sit well on the British palate. They stayed in the office for 2 years, and anybody who joined the organisation was forced to try one of the sweets until we actually had it was actually a Finnish guy joined the team, and he ate them all. So eventually, my gift to the office got used for the right purposes. But sorry to sort of like barge in with that, but it was just one of those things. It's incredibly licoricey.
Yeah, it's I'd say that it's an acquired taste. But I don't think anyone except us, the Finns, are as enthusiastic about this as anyone else. It exists in other countries, but I don't think anyone else eats so much.
Okay, well, question 2 from Matt. If he visits you, will you take him to Linnanmäki theme park? I believe that's that's possibly how it's pronounced. Where you can hold hands and skip and ride rides together.
Yes, it's the Finland's most popular amusement park in Helsinki.
I think Matt's just trying to show that he's definitely doing his research on Gruffy.
Yeah,
But
and
if he
Finland.
promises that we won't go to the Viking boat, then we could go.
Will you
Because
hold
the Viking-
hands and skip?
The Viking boat is the ride there that causes most people to throw up. So basically, it's raining vomit whenever the machine is running.
It's raining vomit. Hallelujah.
No. Question 3 from the same individual. How many Moomins do you own? Is that a racist question?
It is a racist
Is that a
question.
racist question? Is Matt getting racist now? Was Matt getting himself uninvited from theme parks? Do you have any Moomins, Gruffy?
I don't think I have any plushies or the like, but I've got all the original Moomin books, and I also have what do you call it? A reflector, a thing you hang from your coat to make you visible in the dark.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what to call those in English. Well, basically, I've got this little Moomin thing I wear to make myself visible in the dark, so that I don't get run over by a car.
Or fans of the Moomins. Question 4. He says, this isn't a question, I'm going to snuggle that druffy chest. Love from Matt. That's not a question, Matt. That is a creepy statement. The next question is another Star Trek question, so we'll skip
So the question
over
after
it.
that is, can Druff be my dad?
Well, that's from Anonymous, so it's difficult.
Yeah, it's difficult to be a dad without knowing who you are.
Background checks and that sort of thing have to go through. Did Gruffy play hockey in high school?
Yes, I have played hockey in high school, but it was like maybe once a year for school PE, so my school didn't have a team or anything like that. But yes, I have played hockey in high school.
Ice hockey or field hockey?
Both. We do both here.
Ice field hockey. A frozen field.
I used to play field hockey in university.
I never played hockey of any kind.
I was a goalie for my university team for a little while. Well, if I'm my university team, for my university, not even the B team, I was in the C team.
Why do you need that many teams in a university?
Just because they
Just have a team
had
and
that
play
many.
sports. Go sports! The next question is another Star Trek question, so we'll skip over it. Can Cisco read some of Gruffy's story in rape sex bot voice emoticon smiley face?
I'd have to get one of Gruffy's stories up.
So I guess the answer to that question is yes, he can.
I just have to find a Gruffy story.
A favourite Gruffy story or any Gruffy story?
Gruffy has way too many stories for me to find my favourite of his stories. Because he's like...
Well, while you do that...
He is extremely
While you do that, I'm going to eat a Ferrero Rocher, just because I've got some in front of me.
That's right, I am spoiling him.
Are you the
Would you like some chocolate and you aren't sharing with me?
Well, I mean, I could squish it up against the microphone.
Well, you'd be sharing it with everybody.
Yeah, then everyone could have it at home.
Yeah, that's what I liked about Germany, because they had so many different Ferrero Rocher chocolates there. They had so many, and Kinder chocolate, because basically in Finland you get the Kinder Bueno chocolate bar and the Kinder Egg, and they had like 10 different kinds of Kinder chocolate.
We do have many different types of the Kinder brand here, but I'm not sure if any of them are that great. I mean, the chocolate, just the chocolate's fine, but you get like the Buenos and you get the dipping thing and you get the wafery other thing and all the rest of that. Are you trying to remember what was it?
I'm trying to remember what sex box.
Rape sex box. Box.
Yeah.
Bot.
Fuck bot 5,000.
Rape sex box. That's not something we should brand market.
Okay. I'm literally just in the middle of a random story. Yes, trying to get under my skin to get what you want, the tiger murmured. Ha! The wolf chortled. And what would that be, old man? I have an idea, boy. Druff smirked and licked his lips loudly before he surprised the wolf by disappearing. Relatively so, considering that for... Okay, we can't do that.
He's on to his third beer, it's not going so well.
Second!
Is that only your second?
That's only my second.
Okay, so
Just overemphasizing my... But I think that answers the question that no, I can't.
Which story was that, by the way? What's the title?
Love Bites and Slobbers. It was literally the first story I found.
Yeah, because sometimes actually people come to me and ask, can I write more about characters A and B? And then I answer, can you tell me which story that is, because I can't remember all the stories I wrote anymore.
I get that as well. Sometimes somebody says, what did such and such do such and such? And I'm trying to think, why are you asking me?
Because you're the writer.
And then it's, oh, right, it's that story.
Poor Danny.
It's not that, it's just, you end up with so many stories written over so many years, and some of them don't make that much of an impact on people, and even the ones that do, you don't necessarily remember the characters' names. I generally, if I'm writing a sequel to something, I'll do a little cheat sheet for myself of all the names of important people.
Right at the top does it say, you wrote this?
Just a little bit of this description of who they are and just things like who they're related to and if they had any particular mannerisms or if they particularly disliked or, liked somebody.
Well, let's move on to another question. Does Gruffy have any funny commission stories? I'm sure we got this question for Amethyst as well, and I don't think she did. She had a whole host of horror stories to do with commissions. So I will add that. Do you have any funny or horrific commission stories, Gruffy?
Yes, because I obviously written a lot. So basically, I keep saying basically. I don't know why I have developed this verbal tick. So I'll try not to say basically anymore.
I have a similar one. I keep saying honestly, in my honest opinion. Is like normally I lie, but I feel like I need to say honestly just so that people know I'm not lying. It's just I can't stop saying honestly.
Honestly.
I just can't
basically, it's very honest. Carry on, Gruffy.
Let's say horror story. Well, once I wrote this story. This story has never been published, so you can't go on to the internet to try to find it. Once I got this commission where I was asked to write a really kinky story, it had certain kinky aspects to it, and then I kept telling them, can you at least read the draft and tell me if it's going to places you like? And they kept saying, no, surprise me. And so I finished the story, and then I got the feedback saying that, no, the story is too kinky. So basically I was asked to write a kinky story, and they said it was too kinky.
Unkink it. Take out the kinks.
And then told me to F off, basically.
Oh, lovely.
So that was probably the worst. Because basically that showed that... Because it showed that sometimes things go bad, and that after that, if people have ever told me that I should surprise them, I've kept saying them that I don't like surprising people that much, because people can get really angry if I surprise them too much.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I don't do commissions, is because I'd had some bad experiences with a couple of people commissioning things and doing sort of the same, and then they wanted something different when I produced the story, and then you end up doing edits and stuff like that. He just got to a point where it's like, look, I just want to write a story. And the other thing was, a lot of the time things people want don't necessarily make good logical sense in a story, and you end up having to stretch believability, and it's just like
Matt says he hopes he's not a bad commissioner, but I'm saying right now he definitely is. He definitely is. Okay. Other than a tiger, what is Gruffy's favourite animal? And if he had to change, what would he be?
Favourite animal? Well, I like a lot of stuff. We have I've lived on the countryside in Finland, so basically, I've actually the nature comes pretty close here, so you can look out of the window and see a reindeer or a moose. So nature, I feel quite close to nature in that sense, but I'm not sure which I should pick as a favorite. Maybe I'm boring like that I can't say if I have a singular favorite. So I'm not sure what to answer to that.
Okay, well, if you weren't a tiger, what would you be?
Yeah, so if Gruffy wasn't a tiger, what else could he be? That's a curious one, though. Maybe he could be. Well, perhaps it's a boring answer. Maybe he could be a lynx, maybe, because lynx is actually a Finnish animal. We have lots of lynxes here. So if we wanted to make Gruffy really a Finnish cat, then he should be a
lynx.
A lynx, maybe.
Huh? Slight side note, there was an article on the BBC just today, which I think I tweeted, saying that they were looking to bring some lynxes over from Scandinavia and repopulate the UK, because we wiped out everything that was a predator species. Everything, the largest predator species we have remaining is the fox, wild dogs, so basically dogs that have actually escaped, and the Scottish wildcat, which is really small. So we've got nothing that will take a deer down, basically. So they're looking to bring over.
So fuck it, let's bring in some pumas.
Yeah, they want to bring 6 lynxes into Kielder Forest.
Just 6.
Yeah,
well, it's a trial run.
Beasts are a real problem in Finland because we still practice reindeer herding, especially in northern Finland. So basically, it's it's calculation between how much money can you make from herding reindeer and how much money can you afford to pay the herders for all the damage that the beasts do. So bears attack reindeer, wolverines, wolves. But Wolverine is the worst of the beasts because that's the only one that kills for fun.
And has adamantine claws, obviously.
Wolverines kill for fun. The others only to eat, but Wolverine can kill for fun. So we have quite the heated discussions in Finland about how many beasts can we afford to have.
Okay.
But basically, I keep saying basically again, but it's not so much a problem that they would attack people, because they are still afraid of people. So I don't think, for example, wolves have killed anyone here in the last 200 years. So people's fears of them are traditional more than that you'd actually have to be afraid that a beast, a wolf or something will come and eat you. So it's more just old fear.
Yeah.
But they do eat dogs though. That's a real problem, but
Well, dogs are
not
tasty.
people.
Well, dogs are tasty, so you can't blame them. Next question. Since this is a pantless stream, is Druff pantless?
Well, Druff is known to prance around in a jockstrap. So Druff is probably pantless.
That's fair enough.
Yes.
That's fair enough.
I can't imagine Druff prancing. Stomping,
Well, then
prowling. He doesn't seem like a prancer.
Pantless prancer?
yeah, that's probably something for second Gruffy to do. Yeah.
Has Gruffy experienced any of Neil Breen's masterpieces? I mean, we've experienced
we've
Neil Breen.
experienced Neil Breen, and we have inflicted Neil Breen on a few people who've been unfortunate enough to visit us.
I'll eat some more chocolate.
I'm willing to bet Gruffy has no idea who Neil Breen is.
Do you have any idea who Neil Breen is, Gruff?
No, I can't say I've ever heard of Neil Breen.
Then, for your own sanity, I suggest you forget the name Neil Breen and look no further into it. Anonymous asks, what's Gruffy's favourite food?
Favorite food? Well, I had a pizza today, so can I say pizza?
You can say pizza.
It's your favourite food. You can
What
say
topping?
Oh, I'm boring, so I like it with cheese, basically, pretty much.
I'm still eating.
Again, that is an acceptable answer.
I like cheese pizza.
Now, just to see
Is it
which side
cheese or
you
is it
fall on.
4 cheese? Was it like just the one cheese, just mozzarella, or did you have like multiple cheeses?
Just one, basically, pretty much.
Should pineapple be on pizza?
That's a big, long-running.
That's a big argument for our stream.
argument, yeah.
Well, I did actually. I saw it on the news that the inventor of the pineapple pizza recently died.
Yes, the
Yes, he
Hawaiian.
did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So should the question be buried with him as well?
It won't be on our stream.
No, because there are some people in our stream who don't see the.
Is ham and pineapple an acceptable pizza? Also known as pineapple and Canadian bacon, I believe, in the US?
Yes.
Yes, I would say that it's okay to put pineapple on pizza, but I don't eat it. So I can say that I don't eat pizza with pineapple, but I'm not gonna tell anyone to not to eat it.
That's
So yes, let everyone have the pizza the way they do. Today is the day of the London Gay Pride Parade, so I think we can celebrate all diversity today, including on pizza.
I'm
With
sure
pineapple.
that is exactly what the London Pride had in mind when they launched Pride.
45 years.
Equality and diversity in pizza toppings. got some very silly questions.
Well, let's hear silly questions. Silly questions are great. Okay.
Novice questions, I'm sure. For example, not necessarily relevant to stream or even Gruffy. This one isn't anonymous, so I assume he doesn't mind if he's outed. What caused the whole Druff thing to come about? Asks a certain person in chat who can let me know if they're okay with being outed or not. But in the meantime, what caused the whole Druff thing to come about? Why did he appear?
Public demand, I would say.
Public demand for a father figure to Gruffy, or public demand for somebody who Gruffy didn't embody?
Yeah, public demand for a daddy version of Gruffy, that was basically what people wanted. I joked about it, and then people liked what they heard, so I decided that let's do something about that.
Okay.
And he has eclipsed everyone.
Well, that was from Hippie, so everyone pat Hippie on the ass. Or on the head, whichever he prefers. What aspects of your character do you find yourself drawing on or exhibiting in real life? Are they helpful, and do you have any good stories?
So we're talking about Gruffy here, so...
I believe so. Yes, I believe.
What parts of me are like Gruffy?
Yeah. Well, he says your characters, so I suppose most of them. And do you use any of their characteristics in your everyday life?
Yeah.
Like leather chaps, for example.
Of course there are reflections that of course the tigers are a kind of a parody of me in many ways. They're not real people. But well, there are some things that are true to life, like Druff's tendency to fall into these long monologues of dubious philosophical value. That's something I could do in real life as well. I can admit to that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So Gruff, for example, he just reflects some things that I might do in real life. Well, basically, writing Gruff makes it worthwhile to have a university education because he's such a smart ass. So, having gone to the university finally becomes useful when I have to write this character who at least wants to appear to be very much educated and thoughtful and erudite and whatever you want to call him.
No, that's fair enough, yeah. Do you have any similar things as well?
Well, I don't have a Druffy sort of character, but I would say that a good education really does help you as a writer, because
you elitist bastards to all the people who are educated. So all I'm going to say, you big feck.
I'm sorry. I found education interesting. I have always had an interest in pretty much everything around me. That's why I love things like
especially
QI,
boobs.
just because.
You definitely had an interest in boobs. Definitely the boobs.
I have a reasonable appreciation for them on an aesthetic level. I don't know. To be honest, the playing with boobs has always remained entirely theoretical for me. That is why I am almost entirely...
Theoretical or theatrical?
With the exception of the occasional giving a well done honka to Catherine, yeah, it's entirely theoretical.
I think it's time for another beer for you. Gruffy, what exotic or foreign experience would you choose to have?
Well, there are still many places in the world that I would like to visit, so that could be the answer. There are still many places where I would like to go to and meet people and, well, meet real people. I'm not that much for the tourist trap experience, but would prefer to stay with real people and normal people. Well, let's say with local people and see how they live and what they get up to. So maybe that is my answer.
It's a fine answer. It's a fine answer to an anonymous question, although I'm pretty sure I know who asked it. Hockey Hunk is intimidatingly massive. How do you keep going on such an epic story? How do I even get started? Asks anonymous.
I assume that's how do you get started on reading it?
I'm just reading what they wrote. They said, how do I even get started? Maybe they're asking...
How you start to write a massive epic?
Maybe.
Okay.
Well, if you want to start reading it, then you should just start reading it.
At the beginning.
only...
Yeah, start
At
at
the
the beginning.
beginning.
Generally.
Yeah, it's so self-contained that you have to read all of it.
How long is it now? They say intimidatingly massive. How long?
It is huge.
It is over 200 chapters. Each about 3,000 words long, so it's longer than a couple of Harry Potter books put together.
Just saying Harry Potter is going to make Meeks happy. It's going to be an exuberant panda.
In all fairness, I'd rather read Hockey Hunk to Harry Potter. But I'm not a fan of Harry Potter. So don't kill me for not being a fan of Harry Potter. But I just.
And to answer the question on how I dared to start writing something that long, the answer is I didn't. It started off as a one-shot, and then I started writing the series, and it just kept growing and growing, so the story went out of control. My brain just kept coming up with more and more ideas. I couldn't even cook dinner without new characters coming into my mind.
I have that too. I mean, most of my stories, or most of my long stories, it started out as I had an idea for a one shot, and then I go, look, unless you kill unless everybody dies at the end, you're not really at the end, because there's always potential for more story. So unless you actually murder everybody,
Rogue One.
Yeah, if you Rogue One it, you can go, you can have a story that ends.
Sorry, just
Sorry, that sound is him opening a Ferrero Rocher answer of him.
That's fine. I mean, you can answer the question. I'll keep it.
So yes, I had the same with various things. Just started writing one, and then you think, oh, well, what would they do next? It's just a natural thing to be thinking, especially as a writer. You're always thinking of stories and worlds and whatnot, and you just sort of build on things.
Yeah, and as for the story going, I still have lots of things I want to do with it, so it should be going on for some time yet. There are still things I want to do to those characters and stories I want to tell through them.
As it should be for any writer.
Okay, I've got some questions now, because Braz has been reading out loads and loads.
I've been reading loads of anonymous questions. We've still got loads to go.
I have a couple.
Weren't you given them specifically by people?
Well, this question comes specifically from somebody who is a panda.
Okay. I think we've only got one panda.
I'm not going to spoil it for the rest of who that panda is.
It'll be kept completely anonymous, so that's fine.
What was it, or how was it that you found the furry community? So basically, how did you become a fur, and how did you find the furry community?
Well, let's go.
Well, this is actually a Star Trek related question. Because really embarrassingly, the first furry thing I ever read, I thought I was gonna read a Star Trek fanfiction, but it ended up being a furry porn story. I didn't know it was one before I read it, but obviously then there was no mistaking it for what it was.
So hang on, wait. Quick question, sidebar. You say you ended up reading, you were looking for Star Trek fan fiction and you ended up reading a furry porn story. Were you looking for Star Trek porn fan fiction?
Well, not necessarily.
That's a yes.
But it turned out to be one, and after that, it was years before I stumbled upon furry stuff again. But maybe that was the seed that was planted back then.
So it's all Star Trek's fault.
Yeah, you can blame everything on Star Trek.
We can blame Star Trek for that too.
I mean, maybe it's credit. Maybe we shouldn't be so negative. We're not blaming Star Trek, we're crediting Star Trek with helping develop a good creative talent within the community.
No, we're blaming Star Trek. Do you want to read another one?
Okay.
You okay there?
Yeah, I'm just looking through the collection of questions I have, and several of them have already been pretty much answered, so I didn't want to repeat things. Oh, here's a good one, and it's something I think that is quite relevant because you have an absolute massive catalogue of works. So, which of your stories would you suggest for somebody who's new to your writing? As a way to get sort of to get forward. So which particular work would you suggest people read as a sort of introduction to Gruffy?
A gateway
yes,
to
which story of yours is the marijuana?
The gateway to Gruffy.
Well, the Hockey Hunk is probably a good place to start because it's actual storytelling. It's not porn. So it's probably the story I would be most pleased for people to read because it's real writing. But the rest is real writing too. But that one has a plot and drama.
No, that's
Okay,
good.
I think that's.
I would hope that most people would enjoy that. And if they don't, they can go to read something else. There's every species, every kink. I've almost done anything by now. I almost feel dirty about it, but yeah, if there's anything you can pick. So I still haven't written the one story that I wanted to write for years. The one about a guy with the worst sexual fetish ever, which would be to have sex while dressed up as a banana.
You know, I still think there are plenty of worse fetishes in the furry community than that. Because I always found Vor a particularly weird one, because you die. And snuff and all that. But dress up as a banana, at least it's harmless. He's not harming
a regular
himself
banana or a Rasta banana with the full dreadlocks and everything.
Tally me banana man.
I am quarter Jamaican and I am offended.
Tough, you've already married me, so deal with it.
It's true. I'll have to deal with all of it.
I'm not hating on Vor, I just don't understand it as a sexual concept.
No one's asking you to, writer man. Look at you, just offending your entire stream chat.
And I noticed the audience dropped when I said I didn't understand that.
That's all they're here for. Gruffy, when is a writer most vulnerable, and how do you cope with that?
Sounds like they're planning an attack. When are you most vulnerable?
When are you
Gruffy?
most vulnerable in your everyday life? And what are your strategies to deal with getting kidnapped? Just for future reference.
Is that one also from Matt?
Probably.
I'm not sure how to take this. You boys did an interesting analysis on the question.
We did a silly analysis, which we usually do. When is a writer most vulnerable, and how do you cope with it?
Well, when I'm tired, I think that's probably it, because when you're tired, it's difficult to deal with stuff. And in recent years, I've been tired a lot. I've been quite open about my fight with depression and anxiety. I've been ill for a few years. Basically, life got too much for me, if you want to put it like that. But I've gotten help for it, medical and otherwise. So I'm definitely on the way up. And I'm not sure if it has made me a better writer to have gone through all that.
Do you think it was reflected in your writing?
What did you ask?
Do you think that was reflected in your writing at the time when it was getting worse?
Yes. I put some of the stuff in the stories, into the Hockey Hunk, for example. There are some things there that, while they are not things that have happened to me, the plot of the story is fictional. I haven't turned like big dramatic events of my own life into plot in the story, but I have there are little things there that reflect real experiences that I have had, and it's probably somewhat therapeutical to having written that stuff. But it's not the main purpose of the stuff. I don't write my story so that I could get rid of all the negative feelings from myself. The writing is meant to be a happy escape from everything, though you can't go too deep into it.
Yeah.
Because then you don't have a real life anymore. But it has affected the writing. It's there in some places. Maybe that's my vulnerable side.
I don't know about you, Gruffy, but I've always found writing actually therapeutic in many ways, because you can do things in a story that you would never do in real life, but you might want to do. So you can have a character be an arse to somebody just because you've had a horrible day at work and somebody has been an arse to you, and you've wanted to be one back, but you haven't been able to. You can come back home, you can start typing away, and you can write that guy getting his comeuppance. You can have that sort of catharsis, I suppose, through writing. You can get a lot of stuff out through writing. I certainly do. There was one question I did have for Gruffy on specifically on writing, and this is specifically from myself. I find when I'm writing and when I'm really engrossed in what I'm writing, I hit what I call the zone, where I am 100% in the character's mindset, and the writing is just pouring out of me. It's a really amazing feeling just to feel something just literally flowing straight onto the page rapidly, and it's just one of the sort of the best feelings. One of the things I really like most about writing. I'm just wondering if that's just me in my own head, or if you hit that sort of thing where you're sitting down and a story just pours right out of you.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. It's sometimes I work in bursts, so I can sit down and write 300 words, 500 words, and then do something else, and then go back to it. So sometimes I can switch it on and off. But when it's really good, like sometimes when you write a good long story, whether it's a erotic scene or dialogue or character exploration or whatever, it's like there are some of those people who claim that they can sit down in an armchair and with a pen and paper and then they channel dead writers, for example. Like they claim that the spirit of Dickens might be speaking through them, and so they are dictating, they're writing like a lost work by Dickens or Shakespeare or whatever, that they are communicating with the dead. And I think it's called automatic writing or something weird like that. And obviously that's bonkers, but it's not so far away from what happens when you're writing and you're really in the zone, and then you can look at the stuff and just think, where did all this come from? The process is, there's so much of it going on that's subconscious that obviously sometimes writing it's hard work. You have to think about every sentence you pour out to the page and every piece of dialogue, and have to think which verb to use and or adjective or things like that. But sometimes it just keeps coming, just like Cisco said, that when you really hit the zone, then you'll just look at the paper several thousand words later and you see that you've written a lot. Sometimes it's good stuff you've written, and it's not always good stuff that comes out like that, but then you can go back to it and see which bits are good and which aren't. And but yeah, it happens, and I've always wanted to ask other writers on, does it happen to them, or does it happen often, or are there any specific circumstances when it happens? Though I could comment on this, that basically the best stuff often comes when I'm supposed to do something else, something important. Like, it's often been that when I've had to study for exams at the university, for example, that's when I've felt really inspired to write fiction. That has happened a lot of times. So I suspect that when your brain is working on something, even when it's not writing, then there's still stuff going on. So writing can happen also when you're, and often happens when you're supposed to be doing something else. So as long as your mind is working, then stories are happening as well. Well, that was a bit long-winded, I guess, but yes.
We have plenty of
Yes, Cisco, it happens to others too. You're not alone.
That's right. It's good to know I'm not a freak.
Well, I wouldn't. You know.
Well, I wouldn't. Okay, no, not go that far, but not for this particular aspect. Okay. I think I'm through most of all the questions that I had. I do have some questions on Star Trek that I don't want to go into.
You do or you don't want to go into?
I was curious as to his feelings on the new Star Trek versus the new Star Wars, but I think he's already pretty much answered that. So I wasn't going to ask it. Meeks had asked a question about how we all got to know each other, but to be honest, he was just, I think, me and Gruffy spotting each other as writers on So Furry and talking through comments on each other's stories.
I would think so.
Yeah, that's probably pretty much how it happened. Though I do remember reading the first Heath story years ago, and I was so pleased to see that Cisco was back writing stories, and they just kept coming and coming. So I was quite happy about that.
And you know, when I returned from my self-imposed exile, I found Gruffy had been going for I think a couple of years at that point, and he was very prolific. And I always check out who's in the top popular sort of things, and he was. I remember at one point I think he had first, second, and third most popular story, which I had to say was a very impressive achievement to roll out
Do
three
you
very
remember
popular.
what the stories were?
I don't know. He might have achieved that many more times than just the once as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think
I think it's probably been a couple of times that I've had 3 stories on the like the top 3 on the front page. That has happened a few times, I think.
Just to rub it in.
It's never happened to me. I think I've had, but the thing is, I've had the first and second spot once. I think my singular biggest achievement was I released a story at the same time that KL Gold released a story, and mine stayed on top of his in popular list until the 2-day limit. So I had a story that was more popular than one of KL's for 2 days.
I don't really know who that is. I mean, I've heard the
He's
name.
like, I suppose when it comes to writers in the furry community, he's the giant. He's the big fish.
Yeah, let's say it's probably a bit of a pun to say, but he is the gold standard.
Yes.
He's what people want to be.
He's the guy who's produced the most popular works, basically.
Fair enough.
And probably the only person in the world who lives off his writing at the moment.
Well, only furry writer, I would say. Furry writers, we are not furry artists. We don't make huge amounts of money. I've produced one self-published novel, and I think the cost of the art for within it and the editing have just about been paid for through everything I've sold.
You're about broke even.
Yeah, and that is a major achievement, actually breaking even. The only other thing I think I've got another novel coming out, which is not self-published, and I actually hope to make some money off that because somebody else is paying for the editing and the art. So that's the only reason I expect to make any money off it, is because I'm not paying out anything up front, although I did spend a long time writing a 112,000 word novel.
Well, I mean, you say that you did it in an evening, right?
Yeah, it's a... Well, when you think about how much money writers in general make, and I've looked into the statistics in Finland, how much the average writer makes in Finland from writing, it's such a small amount that I think at least for 1 year after May started doing commissions, I earned more than the average Finnish writer simply from writing. So basically that means that all Finnish writers are really, really poor.
And you're just lauding it above all of them.
And
I mean, I would love to be able to. I mean, I would say that I have been very lucky in followers and supporters, and I have turned a hobby into a nice way to save up for our dog's impending operation.
Hibbledy hobbledy.
Which is where all the money that I make from furry writing goes into a savings account.
Speaking of, he just got a hydrotherapy vest.
Yes, that's our dog, not me.
You're not going for hydrotherapy, but he does look hilarious in his I almost said submersible. It's not submersible. His floating vest for hydrotherapy. Anyway, let's get on to another anonymous.
Yeah, it's a good way to make pocket money, I would say.
Are you finishing another beer?
I bought a new laptop with the commission's money, so I've made my life a little bit more comfortable with it. It's
With the
not
laptop?
something that I can live off, but it has given me a lot in the materialistic sense as well.
That's good.
But of course the main part has been the interacting with people and making other people happy and making yourself a bit happier as well.
Well, for Cisco, it's interacting with other people
aspect is really important to
and
me.
making a fool of himself on stream.
I do enjoy interacting with people, making a fool out of myself. I enjoy writing. I would do it if I earn nothing, and the fact that I earn a little bit from it is wonderful. The fact that it's something that's hopefully contributing to our dog eventually getting new hips.
I just see us going to the Hips R Us and picking out the deluxe pair of Labrador hips for our dog. I'm going to move on to another anonymous question, and I'm going
to move to the fridge to get another beer.
And I'm going to disappoint that anonymous asker because it says, "Can I really make Cisco say anything on air?" Well, I'm not Cisco, so far no. Did you know that Meeks is a panda?
We all know that.
What is your opinion of Peter Piper's peck of pickled peppers? Were they preferable to pepper pecking Piper's Peter? Now, whoever asked that, I am sorry, because that was obviously for Cisco. There is a chance for Cisco to do that in one of his voices. I'm sure Danny would protest. Cisco, do you want to, since you're onto another beer now, would you like to tackle that in one of your infamous voices?
Oh, my infamous voices. Which voice?
I don't know. Oh,
Because it doesn't.
Hibbity hobbity doogs.
Oh, let's just bring fuckbot back. Can I really make Cisco say anything on air? Did you know that Meeks is a dragon?
No, I didn't. Continue.
Well, you would be wrong. He is a pander that I will rape. What is your opinion of Peter Piper's peck of pickled peppers? Were they preferable to pepper picking Piper's Peter?
And I really hope you enjoyed that.
And to Danny, fuckbot don't care if you beg.
A question for
He's
Gruffy.
gonna rape you.
No, Gruffy is not going to rape you. Question for Gruffy. How do you fix writer's block?
That can be difficult. I've experienced episodes in the past. The best way is to distract yourself. To do something that has nothing to do with writing. Like yesterday I watched 3 Child's Play movies back to back. Which I'm not sure was a good idea.
Is that the one? Which one's Child's Play? Is that Chucky?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the Chucky
Chucky.
movies. The ones that were blamed, they've been blamed for child murder in the past.
Are you a fan of horror movies?
Not hugely. I basically, oh god, I like horror movies that make me laugh.
You're a
treat
fan
them
of
as
bad
comedy.
movies.
I like bad horror movies. I treat them like comedies, like the Psycho sequels, Psycho 2 and 3. They're hilarious because they're so bad.
You see, you need to come over and have a bad movie night with us. We love bad movies
That
of
make you
all genres, horror,
We'll get you around. We'll
sci-fi,
get you over here,
Neil
Gruffy.
Breen. He has his
we'll-
own genre.
We'll get Matt to stand outside and glower at you through the glass, and we'll take you through some hilariously bad movies.
But
Yeah, I like terrible movies.
Yeah, well, Matt
No.
seems to be all for that.
we
have bad movie nights quite regularly, and yeah.
I think the thing about a bad movie is you're not watching it because you think it's like really good. You're watching because you enjoy laughing at it.
Oh yeah.
And that is, especially when you've got a group together, it's just a fun evening.
We're going to group together, and you're downing. What's this? What's this one?
This is Sticky Toffee Pudding Ale, which is not as manly as the Whitechapel Porter that I started on, but is delicious
I'm
and
sure.
fancy.
Well, as long as you don't not drink a nuclear penguin.
No, nothing like that.
What's Nuclear Penguin? And where can I get some?
It used to be the strongest beer ever made.
Was it? What strength was it?
I'd have to check that, but I think the same company made something even stronger.
I tell you what, you come visit for Bad Movie Night and bring a Nuclear Penguin.
32% strength.
Fuck me, that's almost spirit strength. So a pint of that would floor anybody.
Sure.
Yeah, that's. but it costs £35 per bottle.
Oh,
In
that's-
that case, do not bring that. I've got some whiskey, some really nice stuff. We can chug that.
Here's a relevant question by Hippie. What does Gruffy think of Cisco's sex bot voice?
I think I gave the opinion on the last stream that it sounds like Hyacinth Bucket making her I am a foreigner voice.
You did, and it's not far off. It's not far
But
off.
I adore the voice. I want to hear it on every stream from now on. Sorry, Cisco.
You can't speak. In
It's
a
not
normal
me you
voice.
should apologise to, it's Danny. He can't stand me doing any voice except my own voice.
Well, this next one isn't a question, it's more a request of Gruffy. Read to us. Find something mundane nearby in your native language, like a newspaper, a flyer, a grocery list, and then read it to us as if you were reading one of your stories. Does that mean read it erotically, or
I think
how would you yourself read one of your stories? Is my point.
with one hand.
Oh dear, you're
Sorry.
bringing it down.
I had to bring the tone down. It depends. We have discussed doing books on tape or doing reading stories out, and I always imagined actually putting some emotion into it so that it's kind of thing. But it's very difficult to do, especially when you get to the sex scenes. I mean, how sexual should it be?
Well, I don't
tone-wise?
think he's going to find any sex scenes in a grocery list or.
But he
newspaper
can
anywhere.
pretend he's found a sex scene in his grocery list.
Fair enough. That was a request, Gruffy.
Yeah, I've got this paper that's instructions on how to use my new bank card.
Brilliant.
Would
Just
it-
don't read out
would
your
this
PIN
be-
number.
Well, it has instructions, so okay, people. So here's some Finnish language for you. Säilytä korttiasi huolellisesti. Säilytä korttiasi yhtä huolellisesti kuin käteistä rahaa. Älä jätä korttiasi valvomattomaan paikkaan, esimerkiksi autoon, työpaikalle, hotellihuoneeseen tai ravintolan pöytään. Älä koskaan luovuta korttiasi toisin edes perheenjäsenen käyttöön. Kortti ja tunnusluku ovat henkilökohtaisia. Varmista säännöllisesti, että korttisi on tallessa. Luovu tarpeettomista korteista. So that was instructions on how not to forget your bank card anywhere.
Okay.
There was a question in the stream that I kind of wanna ask.
Okay. Feel free.
Well, I have to ask it in Sexbot's voice.
Go ahead.
Are you open for a Sexbot meets Gruffy Commission? I lost the voice.
You don't. That wasn't Sexbot.
Apparently, too much beer means I can't do Sexbot. Sexbot does
You start sounding like a Cyberman. Yeah.
I'm happy to sound like a Cyberman. I love Doctor Who.
I would want to point one thing out to Hippie and Novus. That was the first mention of Doctor Who. I know it was on their bingo card. I don't think we've mentioned Doctor Who before now, so are you guys, have you got bingo yet? Have you got a line or whatever? Let us know as soon as you do.
Stobo, I will fight back.
Okay, well, as long as the Sexbot has some sort of an X-Force fight, then then Gruff is open for meeting him. Yes.
Oh God, I don't want to see that commission. I really don't.
Gruffy and Sexbot. Sexbot isn't anything other than a voice so far. We haven't designed him. Gruffy, who is your favourite Doberman? Winky face. Winky blinky.
Winky face. I wonder who might have made that question. My favorite one is the one on Hockey Hunk, Mr. Jacob Holden, who is insane. I think that's my favorite one. I hope this answer doesn't disappoint anyone.
You always end up disappointing somebody.
So I'll play to my own field now and name my favorite Doberman as the one from my own story.
That's fine. I'm more than happy with that. Anonymous says, we know what the bare necessities are. What are the tiger necessities?
Well, good Wi-Fi. Let's say that. Because I need my internet.
I think everybody does these days.
And thankfully, internet is pretty good here nowadays. What else I need? Safety, I suppose. I value safety a lot.
A big shotgun.
I don't mean just safety from natural disaster or terrorists. Safety, your own space. I guess that's a good answer.
What do you need, Hippie? What do you need? Would you rather write an erotic story about 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck? Surely it's one horse-sized duck, because that's going to be easier.
Yeah.
You don't have to name all of them.
I think I once said in a story my orgy writing skills have gotten quite rusty. So the 100 duck-sized horses would be difficult. But for Gruffy...
Interesting question. Maybe I would do the horse-sized duck, because that probably would have an interesting backstory.
But it's 100 horse-sized ducks, isn't it? Is it 100 horse-sized ducks?
100 duck-sized horses, or one horse-sized duck.
Okay.
It's like the old stupid question of which would you rather fight.
Okay.
Let's do the giant duck. Would probably be funny.
A horse-sized duck. That's fair enough. Cisco and Braz need discipline. How would you punish them? What am I disciplining for?
You know what?
Is this question for Gruffy or Draft?
It doesn't say, so either, I suppose.
Or both.
Well, Draft is a fan of collars and leashes, so he might dish those out on you.
What about Gruff? A stern talking to?
He's going to make us eat those sweets. That's what he's going to do.
Well, that could be a good idea as long as I get my share.
2 for you, 1 for Cisco.
And just to answer a question in stream, yes, ducks do indeed have penises. They're one
they
of
have
the
huge
birds that.
ones.
Yep.
I think they have huge ones compared to their body size.
Yep. There are some birds that do and some birds that don't.
Cockney.
Yeah. But I think ducks are the ones who have huge ones compared to their body size.
I know they're incredibly rapey.
Here's a good question for you. Do you know, relative to its body size, what has the largest penis in the animal world?
Meeks should, because you.
I know this because I studied penises at university.
He doesn't mean that in a weird, like, hanging around in the toilets kind of way.
Yeah. Well, okay, maybe. But
Is it something? It's something tiny, isn't it? The animal.
I'm not going to confirm or deny that. I think you have to.
Well, but I think it's something tiny, if I remember correctly. So human beings, though people are pretty well hung too compared to other apes.
We are compared to gorillas and most. It depends. Actually, our ball size is pretty big, and that implies that as a species we were quite open sexually before we were intelligent. Our nearest relative is the bonobo, who is quite free sexually, and the belief is that they have a very similar ball to body size as we do, and the belief is that because it's all about the amount, the sort of the odds. It's all about sperm wars basically. So because the belief is that lots of guys and lots of girls will be having a lot of sex together all at once, the guys who are most productive spunk-wise would end up to be the father, so the guys with the biggest testicles basically had the biggest chance of becoming the father because their sperm would outwar the other guy's sperm. But gorillas have very small testicles relating to the body size because they are a resource defense polygenes, I believe, which basically means one male protects a gang of females and has exclusive sexual rights. So he doesn't need a lot of spunk to get the females pregnant. He just needs to basically make sure no other males come close.
Yeah, and
Sorry, that was a very long treatise, but
yeah, and considering that people have very few mechanisms, biologically speaking, for ensuring paternity, other than doing it a lot, because we don't have anything like that. Like the human produce it doesn't form plugs to close it in there or something like that, like some species do. So we don't have that kind of systems in place.
I mean, I can talk greatly at length about various different reproductive techniques and ways different males have developed for getting ahead. You're right, there is a marsupial that forms a plug, and that's because the females all come into oestrus in the same day of the year. So if you get in first and their semen forms a plug that's quite difficult to remove, so any competitor males don't have enough time basically to get the plug out and get their dick in before she's out of season and before your basically his children have taken root or whatever. There is a mouse who has the highest testicle to body size ratio, not penis to body size, but testicle to body size, where the testes account for 25% of the body weight. So that would be like if your testicles were like each the size of your leg.
You're not far off though, are you?
I have big nuts, but not that big. The other thing, I suppose, the answer to the question, Gruffy, was
10 minutes ago.
The answer to the question was the barnacle. The barnacle has the largest penis of. Its penis length is, I think, about 3 times the size of its body. So because it's fixed where it is, its penis needs to reach the barnacles around it, basically. So yeah, they have big cocks.
This is going to be a weird video for people in the future to watch back when they reach this section. When you're drunk enough to be dropping into your university study days.
Another small factor, well, no, not really a fact on the barnacle, but another fact I know about barnacles is that Darwin, when he was putting together his theory of evolution, he had to become an expert in one particular animal, and he chose the barnacle. And I think he was quoted later on as saying there is no animal he hates in all the world quite as much as the barnacle. Because he was forced, in order to validate his theories, he was forced to become the world's leading expert in barnacles.
Well, he chose barnacle. It's his own fault. Just saying.
Sorry, that was a whole load of waffle and
Swaffle.
and lots of talk. I literally did an entire year of studying on reproduction, animal reproduction. So I do know a lot of facts on sex and stuff. There's also the very rare form of reproduction competition, which is that there's a bird in Africa, where the female, basically, you know how you generally, it's a male who has lots of females.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bird there. The female has lots of males, and what she does is each male she mates with, she lays a clutch of eggs with, and then she moves on, leaving the male with the eggs to raise the young. And then she finds another male and she shags him, she lays another bunch of eggs and moves on and keeps moving on. So the female is the one with multiple partners, and the male is only ever has one partner.
So basically an animal version of Benefit Street.
Yes.
Social commentary. Gruffy, what makes home for you?
Well, I had to answer family to that.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's a fine answer.
I've got very close ties with my family, so I have to say that it's my family that makes a home. I've lived in a lot of places, I've moved around quite a lot, so it's hard to think of any single place as home, but it's the people that make home.
Yeah, I think that was a good answer.
A good enough answer, were you about to say?
I'm almost through on my questions. I think we did have questions on this, and this was one of mine, which is on the love of Holby City. Is it Holby City?
Holby City, yeah. I know nothing about Holby City, by the way. I want to ask this now: is Holby City related to Casualty? Did Casualty become Holby City? Casualty was a thing, like in the early 90s.
Yeah, Casualty started out in 1986, and it had its Holby City is a spin-off to that started in 1999. So yeah, they are related. They are set in the same hospital, and they have shared some characters over the years, but they can't really do many crossovers between them, because one is filmed in Cardiff, at the same studio where they filmed Doctor Who, and the other one is filmed in Elstree in London. So when the characters take the elevator from the casualty department to the surgical floor, it's in different cities.
Okay.
Which I always find really funny when character from one show comes to the other show, because they're filmed in different cities.
Well, Nobody had a question about Holby City other than I think Cisco. So, do you have a Holby City specific question?
No. I think it was just where the love of it came from.
Where it came from. I remember watching old episodes of Casualty after school at home. So that was my first touch to it.
I think
I've always been very interested in medical stuff, so it was fun to watch it.
I remember
And that's why I
Casualty.
still watch it.
I remember Casualty. I don't remember much about it. I remember that it was an emergency room drama, and that it had theme music that was almost more famous than itself. And then I remember in 2001 or something like that, somebody released a dance track using the Casualty theme, and I believe, although I may be wrong, it was called Bound for Da Reload. And it was dance hip hop, I believe. But I've never seen Holby City, and I wasn't sure if it was the same thing. I thought they were related, and now I know. The more you know. I now know Holby City and Casualty are a spin-off of one another. So there you go.
Yeah, and nowadays I have a lot of fun with the social media aspect to the shows. I live tweet the episodes on Twitter with other people who are watching. So they have very passionate fans, and they also have a big gay following nowadays. Because both shows have lots of gay characters. So they're actually, well, especially girls. There are a lot of girls who fangirl over the gay characters and the lesbian characters. So that's also quite funny. I mean, in Holby City they had this lesbian couple, and the actresses were getting so many gifts sent to them that the BBC told people, please stop sending gifts.
Gifts of what?
I think it was like everything. Like, I think people were making like little dolls of them, so I think some of them were starting to be a bit creepy too, I suppose.
Voodoo
So
dolls.
people listed homemade dolls and pictures and all sorts of objects of worship, I suppose.
On a slightly different thing, but a similar theme, I'm just curious because I mean, what sort of shows did you watch as a child? I know Matt's gonna make the Moomins thing, but there are a few shows I really remember quite clearly, and I certainly remember some of the young ones. But I mean, for me, I think it's sort of more early teens and late sort of 10, 12 sort of thing. But I remember Animals of Farthing Wood and Gargoyles are two of my sort of things that really had an impact on me. Animals of Farthing Wood was a brilliant TV series. Where, well, unsurprisingly, it was about animals, and there was a lot of deaths and a lot of things like that, and it was just really good storytelling. And Gargoyles had all the Star Trek characters in it, basically all the Star Trek, everybody where everybody went from Next Generation. Once the show ended, they seemed to all go into Gargoyles. But other than that, it was also a fantastic, again, good writing.
Were you bringing up
good animation? So I'm just
Gargoyles
curious.
Just because there's a segue into Star Trek there.
No,
So a lot of the voices came from Star
I only
Trek
only
actors.
really thought of that when I was halfway through the rant, I suppose, rather than a question. But just so, what shows influenced early Gruffy?
And would we know them?
Well, yeah, now that you mentioned the Animals of Farthing Wood, which I would suggest everyone to watch, I saw that as a kid. I watched that, and it was really good. And as you say, it's really dark. There's so many people animals who die in it from the start, because it starts with them having to leave their homes, and the animals keep dying all the time in that one, run over by cars and killed in the battles. between the different factions. And it's really dark. Almost everyone dies.
There was I don't know if you remember the episode, but there was one where Kestrel accidentally killed Mouse's wife, and she felt really bad because she'd eaten his wife, and just stuff like that. Just
really tasty though.
It's like it was the most embarrassing thing she could have done. But it was for a child's show. It was wonderfully violent in many ways, but obviously not too graphic.
But the snake was my favorite character.
I love that.
The female adder. She's my favorite.
Yes,
definitely.
called Ada. She got a bloke in the end as well, or a male snake, and I can't remember.
Yeah, I think she did, but didn't he die?
Probably. Most of them.
All of them died.
Most of, the foxes were the sort of the main thing of the series, and when they finally got to where they were going, and they had a litter of cubs, they followed. One of the cubs left and decided he was going to leave the new wood they'd found, and they followed his story. He had a horrific sort of like life outside the forest. He was attacked. He was shot. He eventually limped home to die. But it was a great story. It was fantastic. It predates Redwall by quite a few years, Stobo.
But it was great. I liked that one as a kid, and I also watched Biker Mice from Mars.
I too watched Biker Mice from Mars as well.
That one I watched. I liked that one quite a lot.
The one thing I would say about Biker Mice from Mars is do not go back and watch it. Because I got a tape in a flea market one time, and I went and watched for Biker Mice from Mars. It's not something that is aged that you can look back on. Leave it in your head. Animals of Farthing Wood, I'd be willing to risk going back and watching again.
Well, there's also something particularly British I watched too. I watched Super Ted. Do you remember that one?
Oh my god, I remember Super Ted. Oh, he was awesome.
It's very camp.
It's so many of the British cartoons of that era were camp. You had Super Ted and Danger Mouse.
The thing about Super Ted is twice I've been asked on the street, my Bear Paw Superman parody shirt that I made. Twice I've been asked if it's a Super Ted shirt. So I say yeah. Of course it is. What else would it be? Super Ted.
Yeah, I love Super Ted, and me and my family, my brothers, we still talk about it even years later, 15 years later, we still talk about it. Especially the episode where Texas Pete wants to steal Texas. So he has this strange machine that cuts off the land borders of Texas, and then they use rockets to launch Texas into space.
Don't laugh, that could happen.
Which makes sense in the logic of a cartoon.
That could happen, don't laugh.
You can cut off part of the Earth's crust and send it to space.
That's okay. I did love Super Ted. I have no problem with that whatsoever.
We've been a while without an anonymous question, so I'm going to throw one in here. Gruffy, is there someone you admire in the community, in the furry community?
Someone I admire? Well, Cisco, of course.
I was waiting for him to respond, but he's just sort of laughing to himself.
Well, definitely Cisco. I think Cisco has already done some stuff that I would love to do in the future, and I'm really happy that Cisco has had the balls, which we already talked about, I think. Cisco has had the balls to do those things first, so I would be very happy to try to follow in Cisco's paw steps.
You're supposed to respond, Cisco,
Sorry.
instead of just blushing and disappearing into your chair.
Sorry, there's a lot of talk about my balls. Thank you. I'm too British to take compliments. I just get very awkward.
You desperately want another beer now, don't you?
Yes. Well, I haven't finished this one, but I am tempted to.
Yeah, there are a lot of good people in the community a lot of people who had to go through a lot of shit to be where they are now and are still going through that shit. So I admire those people as well who, despite everything that's going, that they still have the strength to go on and be themselves and all that. So there are a lot of people who I definitely admire in that sense. But I would also like to remind everyone, everyone that people in the furry world are still people. So you shouldn't get too Star Trek by anyone. You should remember that everyone is still a person. We're all people under the fur. So
Everyone's still a person. They're not necessarily a decent person, but they're all definitely a person.
Well, I really think that the thing with the furry community is we are an accepting community, so we accept all the outcasts, and I think but because of that we end up with, I think, more than our proportion of people who've had a rough go of things, but generally the furry community is willing to take in almost anybody, because that's the sort of people we are.
yeah, that's probably it.
Are you going to get another beer?
I still haven't finished this one.
Oh, and since people were talking about the movements on the stream,
Yeah.
on the comments, I'd like to suggest for anyone who hasn't watched the movements, go to YouTube and watch the bootlegs of the movements there. Buy the books if you can, they are not expensive. It's something that is part of the Finnish psyche by now. Everyone knows the movements. You can understand Finnish people a bit easier if you read the movements or watch it.
I remember watching the movements as a child.
Oh, God, I remember watching
it's an anime. The Moomin cartoon is an anime.
I loved the Moomins when I was a kid. They're a very good, easy, relatable story. It was just fun.
Yes, and the original comic strips they wrote for British newspapers in the 1950s, they're really, well, I suppose they're edgy. I mean, the Moomins, they make moonshine, and there's one episode where they try drugs. They take something like LSD. So there's really lots of not child-friendly stuff going on there as well. And the funniest thing that happened lately when it comes to Moomins was that the old Moomin TV series that is from like 1990, and it has been shown on Finnish TV like a dozen times. A competing TV channel bought the broadcast rights, and then the original TV station asked for so much money for the use of the Finnish dub that they decided to make their own dub, and people now think that's a blasphemy, that someone has dared to make a new dub of the Moomins. So now there was a lot of adversity, and still is people, I mean grown-up people in their 30s and 40s going on how their childhood has been spoiled by this new thing.
As long as it's not sex.
I think the thing, there's a lot of accusations of that in the furry community as well, of childhoods being ruined by porn of various things.
I know Meeks freaked the fuck
Biker
out.
Mice from Mars being a...
Meeks freaked the fuck out when he saw Little John, and the Sheriff of Nottingham going at it.
It's... well, I mean, I think obviously you've got to take anything like that with a big dose of salt and just If it's not what you like, then don't look at it. I think there is a bit too much. Somebody's done something I don't like, therefore I must complain about it.
Everybody complains these days. Right, another question for Gruffy. Do you ever wish you could just write the next Harry Potter and coast forever off it, or write forever and never experience that kind of exposure? So I suppose, do you ever wish you could just write one big story and then be done with writing, but be rich and happy off that one story, or would you rather write indefinitely and never experience that sort of fame for that one big story? I am guessing.
Ah, interesting. I suppose everyone wishes for that big thing, but whether having endless money makes people happy is another question.
It
It's
makes
like-
some bears drunken.
It's like J.K. Rowling. What's happened to her? I mean, she still writes and publishes books, but do people really care about those books? No, not really. But if it makes her happy,
I doubt it is making her happy, because that's like you said, that nobody really cares about those books. As a writer, no one's going to care about what you put out. It's just going to be, well, what is it like in comparison to Harry Potter? How is it related to Harry Potter? Is it in the same universe as Harry Potter? Oh, I don't care then.
Thing is, I would have, if I wanted to pick somebody to be like, I'd rather be Terry Pratchett than J.K. Rowling. Now, he never quite reached her monetary value, but he wrote very popular books for a very long time. From his, ironically, I think it was about his 40s till when he died, he was writing some very popular things, and I think I would rather be, I would certainly be happy with a one big hit, and then I don't have to work anymore. At the moment, you know, writing is not something I can do full time because I need to earn a coin. So, and writing isn't going to pay me that coin, so I have to have another way of earning that. If I could hit one big hit and then just sit back and write whatever the fuck I wanted afterwards, okay, maybe it wouldn't be, you know, maybe you
But
wouldn't
that's
never...
cake and eating it too. The question was one or the other. The big hit.
Yeah, but the big
and
hit,
then-
with the big hit comes, you know, I think afterwards just coasting. So, well...
Coasting and never writing something as good as that again. Never really writing anything meaningful again. Just coasting. Or would you rather keep all your inspiration going, writing things that are meaningful to you and other people, but never experiencing the big exposure of that one big thing that people go mental about and sit out
Well,
on the pavement
I
at
would still argue
midnight
that
to get the
even
next...
if I'm coasting, I think it just changes the dynamic. At that point, I've got the financial security that I'm just writing what I want to write.
No, I know that, drunk bear, but that's not the question. You're trying to twist the question into your drunken... I want my cake as well. It's one or the other. It's asking you to... They're asking you to choose.
Well, I'm
Which would
saying
you
I
prefer?
would pick the...
One big thing and never write again.
No, it's not never right again, though.
Then you're
it's
changing
coasting.
the question. Then you're changing the question.
It says just coast forever, which implies you do right again.
I'm going to stop asking you questions and just stick with Gruffy because you're too drunk to be serious.
I'm
Well,
not
I-
right drunk.
I could also look into this question from the when you talk about coasting. That's a feeling that I suffer sometimes even today. I can look into my older stories I wrote maybe a couple of years ago, and then I can read it and think, oh no, I wrote so much better back then. What am I doing writing now? Is anything I write now as good as this? Even though probably my writing has improved since I started, which I hope it did, but it's still a feeling that you sometimes get that, what on earth am I doing now? because you were so much better back then. What's happened? So this coasting feeling can also happen even at this point.
Oh, that's fair enough. Hopefully the question has been answered to a satisfying way. Point. Oh, and another one from Matt. What kind of music are you into, Gruffy? Other than the one that you danced seductively to the other day.
Yes, that was the Modern Talking song, which I think would have traumatized some of the people I know. Not the dancing, but the music, because some people are really amused by my terrible taste in music.
I can't say I've seen you have terrible taste in music, but then I also have terrible taste in music. I like what most people would say is popular crap, but if it's popular crap, it's because it's popular. I'm getting another beer.
I'm quite eclectic. I listen to pop music and rock music and classical music, and I even listen to experimental music. Sometimes, like a Moogie synthesizer, stuff from the 60s. That kind of hipster stuff. I've even listened to that. So it depends. Sometimes I can go for quite a long time not listening to music, and then suddenly I am listening to music again. But sometimes people ask me if I listen to music while I'm writing, and the answer is that it doesn't really matter, because when I'm really writing, I'm close to the world. I don't know what I'm listening to, so it doesn't make a difference.
Cisco's eating a sausage that he barbecued on the grill earlier. Otherwise, he would probably comment.
That sounds like a very Finnish activity. I approve of that.
It was in the fridge with the beer. I had a barbecue earlier. There was some sausage left over. It's in the fridge. I've had several beers now, and I saw a sausage and thought, I really want a sausage. That's literally the extent of that.
Well, I approve of that.
It's Gruffy approved sausage.
Anonymous asks, "Fuckbot, why won't you return my calls?"
Fuckbot's had you, bitch.
Oh, that's a terrible fuckbot.
I know. Apparently beer kills fuckbot.
Beer kills a lot of stuff. Gruffy, you work with some interesting themes, some of which bring up ethical considerations. How do you balance ethics and morals with good characters and storytelling?
I'm not sure which kind of characters this refers to. Obviously, sometimes people, when they're asking for commissions, they want some rather extreme stuff. So I just try to keep that to that. I like writing morally ambiguous people. Some stories I've written stories where the people, they aren't exactly nice people, or the things they do aren't exactly right, but that's usually the thing that makes characters interesting.
I'd have to say I agree with most of that, and I think that, to be honest, morals and ethics are something you have to factor into a story, and a lot of a story is a character either bending their morals or standing for their morals. I'm just in the middle of writing a story. Excuse me, joke there. Just in the middle of writing a story, and it's told from a first-person perspective, and a big part of the writing of it is how much the character doesn't like himself for what he's doing. So looking back, he knows, he knows what he's doing is morally wrong, but he's not trying to Sorry, I can see what Braz is typing, so I know what's about to appear.
It's on the big screen. I
um,
have a big screen to my right, so Cisco can see chat if he ever is full screen in the game or something. I've left it on, so yeah, he can see it.
So the whole thing about morals and ethics is they make for a good story. So that you don't have to worry about morals and ethics. You don't have to decide whether you're doing you're going to incorporate morals and ethics, because whatever you're going to write, you are going to a character. For it to be interesting, a character is going to be stretching their morals, or there is going to be something morally ambiguous within it.
Yeah, it does come in. It does come in that then it's just a point of their stuff if it comes up otherwise. It's a matter of being true to yourself in that sense. Because for instance with Gruffy, because obviously Gruffy is me and I'm Gruffy, but they are not entirely synchronous with each other. But when I portray Gruffy online, and I'm not talking about role-playing as him, he's a reflection of me while not being entirely me. I mean, I don't pretend to be another person when I'm Gruffy, but there are obviously things that I want to keep to myself, private things, so that he's not a full reflection of me, but a kind of a certain kind of personification. But whatever I do with Gruffy as a person, what things Gruffy says in his journals, for example, with those I still want to stay true to myself. There are things that I approve of and things I disapprove of, and things I find right and wrong, and I still want to stick to those principles. So, yeah, it's something I have to think about, morals and ethics, in writing and outside of writing.
Cisco's nodding along. It's what happens when he gets a little drunk on stream. He gives people thumbs up, or he nods, or he waves. They can't see you.
They can.
On your super secret
know.
webcam. Super secret webcam. Gruffy, do you recall any particularly interesting research related to your writing? Any Google searches you had second thoughts about submitting? Submitting to whom?
I don't know, but I do have something to add to the end of this once Gruffy's given his answer.
Yeah, sometimes I've had to do research. Not necessarily, for some commissions too, but for others as well. There have been some strange things that I had to research, like when I wrote about. There's a chapter on Hockey Hunk where a character has an eye exam, that they need new glass. They need glasses, so they have to go to see the eye specialist. So they had eye specialist, so I had to ask someone who lives in the United States, and how does it work there? What do you do? Because the people, they actually do it differently there. It's not how it's done here, so I can't just write what I would do here if I needed a new pair of glasses. So that was one thing. But there have been many other things. I've had to look up some really strange things like military ranks. Well, I suppose that's not too strange, but military rank systems around the world. And well, there was this one story I wrote that has a character who plays the clarinet. So I had to research what to call each part of the instrument and what kind of music has been written for that. So I almost regretted that I chose the instrument I know nothing about.
Just to jump in there, Gruffy, that was my favourite story of yours. I recognise I recognise that story. That's one of my favourites of yours. It was really well written.
Yeah, I remember that one. I do like that one. It's got fun characterization.
Yeah, it was really good. It was one. That's it. One of my that one is a particular one I would have mentioned today. I just jumping in slightly on the research there. I also have done quite a lot of research for various stories, and there's a couple of bits and things. While researching tribal cultures, I came across one that was rather. It's so extreme it sounds like a poem. It's like there's a tribal culture in Papua New Guinea where literally, in order to become a man, you spend months orally servicing the elders in a hut. You just literally spend your all day.
You need to ingest their semen.
Yes.
It's not just orally pleasuring them. It's
Yes.
the point is
it's all.
They pass on their masculinity to you via their most masculine of processes. Not that I'm saying it's a thing we should introduce to Western cultures. I'm just saying that's the idea behind it.
Yep. But research is a vital tool of any writer.
It's also a browser history landmine. Minefield, I should say. Yeah. I think that's possibly what the last bit, any second thoughts you had about Google searching. Like, just how big is a manhole? Or, I'm doing a piece on sewers and sewage. How big is a manhole? Or how do you get into a manhole? How do you open a manhole? Manhole, manhole, manholes.
Just one thing from one erotic writer to another. What is your favourite euphemism for penis?
Are we talking about synonyms or euphemisms?
Euphemism was the word I used. We're going to go with that.
I wonder what I've been using lately. Well, spare is rather funny. I like spare.
He's nodding again.
I have used spear myself. He speared him with his spear. I would never use that in a sentence in an actual story.
The most embarrassing one I ever used, it wasn't one for penis, but one for someone's rectum. Let's get that clear. I used the word funnel in that sense, and I think that was the worst thing I ever did.
Funnel.
I'm still embarrassed about that one.
Funnel.
Yeah,
It's a funny story though.
That conjures an odd image of an ass, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah, yeah.
For funneling, bottlenecking, you know.
It's one I've never used.
He will now, guaranteed.
Yeah.
He's going to go back and do rewrites on Stable Boy. And
I am not putting the love funnel in Stable Boy. Sorry, Nervous.
That's going to become a meme in stream chat for a long time now.
Yeah. People are loving.
Funnel.
People are enjoying that.
The love funnel.
I'm a big favourite. Mine is hood, dog hood, horse hood, bear hood, man hood. That's what. That's my sort of. I don't know why, but I like that.
I
it
think
works
I've
for any
even
species.
used the drop hood.
The what? Sorry.
Druffhood.
The Druffhood.
The Druffhood. Yeah, that works. It works. It's the wonderful thing about it. It works for any species, anybody really.
It's pretty good.
Well, we have a question.
A question
from Husky in stream. What is your favourite kink to write about?
Well, there are a lot of stuff I write about, obviously. Maybe I should say here, because it's something I wrote recently. It's kind of this kind of a power play situations are fun. I suppose the word would be uppity, maybe. I mean, not the real BDS, not in the BDSM sense that it's a BDSM scene or something that people are. That it's a kind of a role play, this domination submission or power game,
So,
kind of a mind game kind of thing. But I like to write these situations where people are trying to challenge each other, possibly sexually, because it usually makes for fun interaction to write about. It's never boring to write about.
Do you get many? What is boring to write about? Have you ever had a commission where whatever they're asking you to write is boring to write about?
No, not. I can't really say it in that sense, I suppose. There are some. Obviously, some of them have been. Sometimes people ask for similar things, and like talking about, like I said, that Druff is really popular nowadays, so there are still a lot of stories coming up of basically Druff meets someone and they have fun, so the potential is there for it to become repetitive. But I don't want to do the same thing again and again. So it's quite challenging to come up with new aspects to it, and of course it's always new people in it. But it can still feel like I'm repeating myself. So it's basically. God, I said it again. I like to keep myself challenged in that I still try to find new ways to say things and do things, and it's about writing about people, really. That's what I try to do, and try not to repeat myself. Obviously, after you've written 900 stories, surely some of the stuff has repeated itself, but I still try to keep going and hope that people still enjoy it.
Yeah. How long do you think you'll keep going for?
You mean writing in general?
Yeah.
Well, I never want to stop.
Because it takes a lot of your free time writing. Cisco spends a lot of time writing. Obviously, it's a major hobby for writers. You wouldn't do it if you wouldn't enjoy it. But the world has a lot of things to offer, new things all the time. A lot of things fail, 3D in movies. VR comes around every few years and fails. But yeah, so you don't think there'll ever be a time when you're not writing Gruffy and Druffy or Druff stories.
Yeah, but I don't know if I'll be writing forest stories in 10 years time or Druff stories, but I'll probably be writing. I do know that I will be writing, and it's something I don't like name dropping too much, but I watched an interview the other day with Joel Grey, the actor, musician, singer, the Broadway star, and they asked him what he wants to say to anyone who wants to become an actor, and he said that unless you can't imagine life without it, then don't bother. So basically what he wanted to say, that unless you feel passionate enough about it that you can't imagine living without doing it, then there's no point in doing it at all. So I can relate to that in the sense that I do feel like that I have things to say.
I would have to say something similar. Basically, there was some, I can't remember who said this, but it was basically along the lines of, if you wake up and the first thing you think of is writing, and when you go to bed the last thing you think of is writing, then you're a writer. It is one of the first things I think of. Is something I think of a lot. I can't ever imagine myself stopping. Even if I stopped writing the actual things down, the stories would still be playing in my brain whenever I was alone. And in many ways, writing is a way to stop a story playing over and over in my head in 1,000 different, very slightly variants, because once I've actually written the scene, it's down on the page and it's no longer in my brain. So it's a way of keeping myself sane. Ish.
It's a medical thing. It's a medical procedure to stop you going crazy. Oh, I can see that. There's Novus has a question. I think we might as well open the floor to some live questions as well now, because we are about 20 minutes before the end, and I think we did the same thing with Amethyst at about the half an hour to go mark, where we opened it up to live questions. We still have some anonymous, but people have hung around for this long, so if there's anybody who wants to throw out any questions in chat, you can feel free, and we'll try and cover them. Although, much like Cisco's voiceless streams, if your question gets bumped off the page and we don't see it, that's just because we're lazy hacks and we don't care. Well, you know what I mean. So, are there any questions, Cisco? Do you want to ask novices?
Well, I will ask novices. What are you planning to do?
In sexbot voice? In drunken sexbot voice.
What are you planning to celebrate 1,000 stories? Lots of rape?
He says 900 stories. Well, he has a question. What are you planning to do to celebrate 1,000 stories, Gruffy? Or do you have anything planned at all to hit 1,000 stories?
No, I don't think I've anything really planned for it. Of course I should hope that it would be something enjoyable to write, but I never know how these things turn out. I can plan for one thing and then something else come up. Why is Matt talking about Sister Act on the comments?
No idea.
I love that movie, by the way. I love both the Sister Act movies. To throw that in as a side note, I love those movies as a kid.
I have
still have
no
DVDs.
bad things to say about Sister Act. I thought it was a genuinely fun movie. Bit of a weird thing to be talking about now, but
that's fine.
Yeah, no problem.
It's
at all
late.
with any of the
You're
Sister
drunk.
Acts.
You can talk about anything you want. On that note, Novus is asking if a sex bot. I can't stop saying sex box. We're gonna have to market and brand the sex box 360. Is sex bot a lightweight?
Not when he's on top of you, bitch.
Why do I keep imagining the sex bot to look like the robotic oven or whatever it's on that Wallace and Gromit movie where they go to the moon and there's that machine there?
Yes, I know what he means.
Because that's the image that comes to my mind when I think about sex bot. I'm probably sick thinking that.
No, that's fine. That's a decent enough sex bot. If we don't have any more live questions, I've still got plenty more anonymous ones. People.
Matt, that was a quote taken not from Sister Act. I guarantee that is a quote by somebody else that they've used in Sister Act.
I'll let you.
Hey, in Sister Act 2, they talk about Rilke, the poet, and Rilke's letters to a young poet. I remember that. Now I remember what that was. Dolores gives that book to one of the girls who wants to be a singer, but the mother doesn't want her to be a singer. So there's this discussion about the book, and they talk about creativity in general. So I think Matt is probably right that it was at least mentioned in Sister Act 2.
Oh, I believe it was mentioned. I just don't believe the quote originated from there.
No, and I actually have read that book because it was mentioned on Sister Act. So I can say that too.
Right, we've got another question from Solal. What places in the world does Gruffy still want to visit? What places have you visited as well?
Well, I recently came, 2 weeks ago, I came back from Germany, where I stayed for 2 weeks.
Did you eat lots of sausage?
I didn't really
That's
eat...
a personal question.
I didn't eat sausages, but I did try some local cuisine. Yes, I did eat local specialities in Bavaria and in Baden-Württemberg, where I also visited. So I did have some local food and enjoyed it. So I would suggest it for anyone.
I would have to say, I mean, I've been to Berlin myself, and I found the German food really nice. Wherever I was eating, it was really
You also
nice
found
food.
all the bears very nice.
Yes. Berlin is the city of bears, so I was sort of, it was me making a sort of homage to the pilgrimage. Yeah. Sorry, I'm on to my almost finished my fourth beer. And they're very strong beers.
You've torn all the label off it. You skipped over Hippie's question there if you want to give that a go.
Also, he didn't say which places he wants to visit.
Oh yeah, where do you want to visit? Gruff.
Yeah, well, maybe I should go to Berlin.
For the bears?
Well, I would like to go to Berlin, yes, and probably Sweden. I've been to Sweden, but I definitely would like to go to Stockholm. I haven't visited that place yet. And there are still places in the UK that I would like to visit, definitely.
I hear Matt's bedroom is open and free at the moment. Yeah. Silence, Matt. Just silence. I'm not doing you any favours.
Yeah, maybe there as well. But yeah, many places still that where I would like to go to.
What about the States? No, not fancy the States?
People keep asking me to come to the States as well. So hopefully one day I can go there as well and see what the world looks on that end of the world. But I have enjoyed traveling when I've been able to do it, so hopefully I will get chances to go to other places and meet nice people.
Well, you can always come over and attend a bad movie night with everybody. Hippie had a question.
Sorry, Hippie's question, yes. Does Gruffy plan on playing Dream Daddy's a Daddy dating sim?
I've heard about that, but probably not. Probably not in any near future.
Are you gonna play it on stream?
I know that game isn't out yet.
I think it's out.
I don't think.
Is it already out?
Is it? I don't know.
I didn't think it was, but it might be. Possibly. I know it was up for a pre-order not that long ago. Are you going to play it on stream, Cisco?
Are we allowed to on Twitch?
We will find out. Twitch will update its thing. I know we've actually played, and we've mentioned it before, we've played like 3 games on stream that would get us banned on Twitch while we were still on Hitbox, and Meeks almost got us banned on Hitbox, so
Yeah, he did. Him and his penis game.
The amusing thing was we saved the video of that because it was a co-op-a-thon, and they're always quite popular, because you get drunk and Thon gets drunk and Thon's here and everyone's playing stupid games and laughing their heads off, and obviously Meeks was visiting as well, so great, but they deleted the video. So we don't have any evidence of Meeks never getting us banned. I should have pushed it to YouTube immediately, but
we have witnesses.
Yeah, people will remember.
Danny and Matt, they'll tell you that they were screaming at us to stop streaming, stop the game, and we just thought they were laughing.
You got a Hitbox representative in here telling you to stop playing. Fun times. So yes, maybe. It's probably fine. Comes out next Thursday, says Hippie. It's probably fine to play on Twitch, but we will double check. I mean, we could play things like Friday the 13th on Twitch without any problem. We're killing... Murder simulators are fine.
Yeah, murder simulators are fine, but anything to do with sex is generally not.
So...
That's just more of a comment on our warped sort of sense of morality.
Maybe American sense of morality, perhaps.
Well, no, it's more. I think I would say it's more. Unfortunately, it's something us Brits have to take the credit or responsibility for. Victorian and Edwardian times.
I am boiling. That's irrelevant.
Yes, I'm laughing at a joke that probably nobody else in the stream will have gotten. There's a museum somewhere in the UK of penises, and they are penises that were removed in Edwardian and Victorian times from statues.
Not just statues, cut out of paintings.
So
they have tiny little frames with nothing but painted penises in them.
Originally, the only people allowed in to see these penises were people of strong moral character who they believed would not be corrupted by such depravity.
Priests.
Yeah, and we all know that there's never been any accusations of priests being immoral.
That's true. That's
but yeah,
true.
Honestly, there is a...
I'm trying to remember the quote Thorne said as the stream went off air. And it was something to do with like the pixel count. As long as the penis was less than 4 pixels or something, it was perfectly fine. He was reading it from somewhere, and I have no idea. It was at the end of the 12-hour stream. We'd finally got to the end of it, and he was reading the moral guidelines for Twitch or something. And it was something to do with penises being less than 4 pixels. Then it's fine. And I can't remember.
But once it hits 5 pixels, it's too big. Which just says something about the people writing these guides.
It's true. Do we have any more questions? We're getting very close to the end of stream. If you have them, throw them out. I know I've got some anonymous ones that I haven't got to. I'll try and throw some of them out. Gruffy, do you have a mental library of your works? Have you ever found yourself accidentally rewriting an older story? How do you keep yourself on track?
I don't think I've accidentally rewritten an old story, though sometimes I guess they are. Sometimes they are similar. That surely has happened, but I don't think that that's happened. I do try to be. I have a spreadsheets basically where I write down ideas and list my stories. So I do try to keep track on them. So I have so many that I need spreadsheet software to keep track.
Cisco uses spreadsheets, super spreadsheets, but it's usually to completely mess up free giveaways on the stream. Husky has a question. I don't know, Husky, do you want it in Sexbot voice, or are you happy with Cisco's regular voice? See, I have a question for Husky. There's questions all over the place.
The best part is with there being a delay, and he has to type the answer.
Drunken Sexbot voice, please.
Oh God. Is there something you have wanted to write but have not gotten to yet? I just read that out.
Whoa, that's just cowboy pirate suddenly.
I can't even remember what Sexbot is.
You can't remember what Sexbot is?
Is there something you have wanted to write but have not gotten to yet? I'm sorry. I have to try.
It's fine. He's got the question.
Sexbot, grab them in the pussy.
What?
That's how you get into Sexbot's voice.
That's how you get into Trump's head.
Oh right, yes.
That's
Trump, sorry.
Gruffy, is there anything that you've wanted to write but you haven't gotten around to yet?
Yes, there's a bunch of stuff that I want to write, but I haven't yet. Unfortunately, I can't talk about it, but...
Super secret, it's coming and it's in the pipeline, people. You can't get sneak peeks.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't talk about that so much, which is part of something that writers should always remember. That you're not a writer if you talk about stories that you plan to write. Writers should only talk about stories they've already written, because that means that you actually have done it.
Also stops people stealing your secret.
Yes, that too, but it's very unprofessional to talk about stuff that you plan to write, because it doesn't exist yet.
Right, we have about enough time.
So yes, the answer is definitely yes. There's a lot of stuff that I want to write, but it hasn't been written yet.
But you can't talk about it because it's unprofessional. What can we do as commissioners to make the process more pleasant for you?
Well, let's say that 99% of commissioners are very nice. And out of the remaining 1%, there are a few people who cause trouble. So, but out of the so many people I work with, there's really only been less than a handful of people who've given me real trouble. So people are, I guess what people can do is to provide me with the information I need. Sometimes people can be vague. There's also some people who have a lot of information, like pages after pages of things they might request, or background details. So sometimes it can take time to find a balance, but that's probably the only problem I've generally had with people. Sometimes they are a bit vague.
So know what you want before asking, maybe?
Yeah. Know what you want. That's a pretty good way to put it. Know what you want, and I'm always up for discussing these things so that the commissioners get what they want in the end.
Commissioner Gordon. Did we run out of questions from chat there? I saw a lot of people shouting that it was a secret or trying to push the secret sex bot and Druff commission, but can't talk about it because it might be a future written project. That's not a question. But thanks, I'm pretty sure that was Novus. There's quite a few. Should we find at least an interesting one to go out on? That's not a question. That's just rude.
You should possibly try refreshing. You might have got a bunch while we've been in stream.
I have been every now and again, and we did get a few more. A lot of sex bot requests, but as we know now, on your fourth beer,
kills sexbot.
it turns them slightly into Trump, which is horrifying. Really. We'll end on this one, which I'm pretty sure is Novus as well, but I can't say that for sure because I don't know. Erotic writing sometimes has side effects. Do you indulge arousal while writing or suppress it, and is it distracting?
Yes, it's cool. It's good to be in a certain kind of let's say charged state while writing. So yes, you can't do anything about it. That's the hard truth.
The hard,
the hard truth.
But also, sometimes writing sex scenes can be very unerotic. It's not all fun for the writer to do it all. Which is also one.
I generally... Yeah, I do, and I do. When writing sex scenes, if I
was going to type into things.
If I have a reaction, I generally just go with it. And yes, several of my stories have had various large segments written one-handed. That just depends on... Generally, I generally think it's a good thing, because if I'm enjoying it, then I theorize that somebody else who's reading it would enjoy it in a similar way. And let's face it, when you're writing one of those scenes, that is what you're aiming to get.
Yeah,
but
it puts new meaning to touch typing.
Get a grip, guys. Get a grip.
I already did. That's the problem.
Right. Well, there was quite a few anonymous requests for Gruffy to sing Bare Necessities, and I'm not sure if they're all from Danny, but they might be. We've had another sort of one in stream there from Matt, although I'm not going to do that to Gruffy unless he really wants to sing Bare Necessities. But we're a minute over midnight for us.
Yeah, it's 2 a.m. here.
Gruff's probably feeling quite tired, so we should wrap this thing up.
And I wonder if anyone noticed we actually forgot to play any games tonight because we're talking so much.
I was going to say I've had the game's been running in the background. I just never got round to actually displaying the game capture. I was just standing on the bridge of my ship.
Well,
but I've shut that down now because it was just taking process power that wasn't required. Danny says he only requested it once, and quite respectfully, he thinks. Is there anything else you would like to ask Gruffy yourself, Drunk Bear?
I think I've covered all my questions, if I'm honest. So I suppose the question is, did you enjoy tonight? JibberJabber?
Yes, I've enjoyed myself a lot. And I think the questions people have been sending have been very interesting, and I hope that people have had a good time and that people have understood what I was saying. I understand that Amethyst had worries about her Welsh accent being difficult to understand, so I hope that my slightly refined Finnish accent has not
It's been
caused any problems to anyone.
fine. It's been fine. No one's had any issues at all. I'm pretty sure. One thing I will say though, stream. One thing that I'm very disappointed in, we didn't have a single question about what Gruffy's bra size was or his favourite brand of panties. Now, I had a couple of those for Amethyst, so I expect equality in these things. Just saying. Right, so, Gruffy, if, say, anybody wanted to contact you, what would be the best way for them to do so?
Well, I'm found from Fur Affinity and So Furry, and I'm also on Twitter, which I use a lot nowadays. So those are probably the easy ways to find me. And I'm always there. If anyone leaves me a message, I'm bound to read it quite soon.
So that's Gruffy on So Furry and Fur Affinity, and the real Gruffy at the real Gruffy on Twitter.
Yes, I was very grandiose when I created my Twitter handle and decided on the real Gruffy in case that there was fake Gruffy around, but sadly he has not emerged yet.
Is there just an @Gruffy? Do we know
I'm
that?
not sure if there's
You may want to create an @Druffy.
That one could be interesting.
Because
But then you would just get messages constantly off Matt.
well, I have to say, I can say that when I created profile on Twitch, I had to become Gruffy Gruff here because Gruffy already existed.
Ah, there we go. There's already a Gruffy on Twitch at least. Right. I remember asking Amethyst this, so let's be fair all around. Are you currently open for commissions, Gruffy?
On a limited basis, I've got a backlog at the moment, but if anyone has any ideas they want to discuss with me, I'm always open for that. But I can't promise any to be able to do them fast at the moment. But I'm always up for talking about the stuff.
And they can talk to you on Twitter about that, presumably.
On Twitter and on the furry sites where I am.
Good. Right, well, we should probably wrap this up so Gruffy can go to bed and go to sleep. And we can go to bed and go to sleep. Or, well, try to. There is a drunk bear, obviously, so...
Woo, drunk!
There will be that. Nova says he'll PM you later about the sex bot and Druff commission. Okay, if there's anything anybody desperately needs to say to Gruffy, they better say it soon, because we will be ending the stream very shortly. I'm giving you like a minute window. Cisco, dance for a minute.
Woo!
Keep dancing.
And,
Nobody can see this.
They don't need to see it. They can picture you drunkenly dancing
In a jockstrap.
in a jockstrap. Just getting hugs for Gruff and Druff. That's fine. All right. Well, if there's any...
So thank you for everyone, and I'd like to extend my thanks for Cisco and Braz for inviting me over for this JibberJabber, and thanks for all the questions, and for our very lovely hosts tonight, and for all the guests. Thanks for bearing up with me, and our banter.
and Star Trek chat. So much
And
Star Trek. And Star Trek. We never quite got on to Discovery, but that's a good thing because we only had 3 hours. Right. Good night, everybody. We'll see you all later.